Chapter 13:11. The heavenly gods who were guarding the 5 regions in the divine realm rested for a period of time. 3 days later, they discussed with I Ching what they needed to do in detail in the divine land. Then, they left the regions they were guarding and headed to the edge of the divine realm to deal with the matters in each region. That battle had used up a lot of energy in the divine realm, so the energy density in each region had decreased to a certain extent. This was probably the greatest loss they had suffered in the battle. There were no more casualties, and no rebirth realm cultivators who had died. Those who were still alive, the most seriously injured one, also showed up in the divine land's holy city after 3 days of rest. The battle was indeed very satisfying, but after the battle, it was a headache. There were still a lot of things to deal with, and those things were enough to give a heavenly god of origin a headache. This was Yin Nuashing. I Ching and the others had already dealt with these things with ease. Although the current situation was still complicated, there were still many things to deal with, and the most important thing was to repair the creation's barrier. Well, actually, it was quite a headache to talk about. Qing Jun and the others were still fighting in the distant void with the combat forces of the divine realm. However, the battle that day had already finalized the outcome of the battle. It was better to say that the outcome had been decided before the battle had even started. Just like the script, each side appeared and went around in a circle to fight. Right now, they were still constantly sealing the void and sweeping it inch by inch. The main thing was that they found a planet with Tang Yan's help that day. The things they saw there made I Ching and the others speculate that there might be more of those things in the void. Perhaps there might be places where those distorted life forms of order were hidden. That day, he saw with his own eyes that the distorted life forms of order hidden underground possessed very powerful energy. If they were allowed to break out of their cocoons, they would be in a lot of trouble. Back in the divine realm, which had been besieged for several hours, actually suffered a lot of losses. Most of the energy collided with the creation's barrier, while a small part of it passed through the barrier and ravaged the land close to the creation's barrier. It was equivalent to scraping off a layer of skin. Compared to the actual damage, this was almost negligible. Compared to the biggest repair project, having 2 mountains dug up was not a big deal at all. Yes, it was the biggest trouble. Repairing the creation's barrier was really troublesome. Even Yin Nuashing would have a hard time repairing it herself. The creation's barrier was a huge barrier that was jointly set up by the pillars of creation all over the divine realm. It was a barrier of order that could connect the energy of the entire divine realm to attack and defend. It was so complicated that it could choke an ultimate pinnacle of origin to death. It was worth mentioning that the damage to the creation's barrier did not affect the pillars of creation. The battle had come to an end, but the matter of repairing the creation's barrier was another battle altogether. This was the first time I Ching had come to the pillar of creation. He walked into this hidden place with a mark of Yun Nua planet. Looking at the pillar that reached the sky, a strong sense of reverence rose in his heart. That grand and ancient aura made him swallow his saliva uncontrollably, and some sweat appeared on his forehead. There's no problem with the pillar of creation. After the excessive energy consumption, its activity has slightly decreased, and its recovery ability has also decreased. It seems that Lord Maple's extraction of energy has affected the pillar of creation's recovery ability. I Ching walked up to the pillar of creation and placed his palm on the towering black iron pillar. He could not help but frown. The energy concentration in the entire divine realm has decreased by a lot. It's about 60% of its original concentration. The laws are also slightly affected. The bottom of the sea of laws is still stable. Other than that, there's not much problem. He cannot help but raise his head and look at the sky. Behind the illusory blue sky and white clouds was the sky of the divine realm. Beyond that was the creation's barrier. The problem now is the creation's barrier. Runes, and magic circles are more or less affected. The places that were hit directly are more damaged. I Ching felt a headache whenever he thought about runes of such magnitude. He was not a magic circle master or a rune master. Although he had dabbled in these two things due to his cultivation, he only knew about them. He was not proficient in them at all. Even though his level of understanding and knowledge was much higher than some of the ordinary gods, it was still the same. Jing Yuanji, how's the situation on your side? I Ching patted his head. They were now in the Kuan origin region. The others were inspecting the creation's barrier near the edge of the Kuan origin region. He came to the pillar of creation and prioritized checking one of the core of the barrier in this region. At the edge of the divine realm, where the starry sky descended, Jing Yuanji, who was in charge of the defense of the divine realm, stood in this place shrouded in the starry sky. She looked at the creation's barrier not far away. Jing Yuanji, who had reinforced the creation's barrier and led people out to fight a few times, was actually a little injured after the battle that day. She had also squandered all her energy and divine power. 3 days was not enough for her to fully recover. However, the same was true for the others. They had only hurriedly rested for 3 days before they went to deal with the urgent matters that needed to be dealt with. When she heard I Ching's voice, she came back to her senses. The place where the creation's barrier was hit has lost a lot of divine runes of order. The energy of the rule has dropped to the threshold to maintain its existence. However, the energy from other parts of the creation's barrier is coming here and is self-repairing. The situation will not worsen, but I'm afraid it will be very difficult to repair. And Jing Yuanji could not help but frown her beautiful eyebrows. She came before the creation's barrier, reached out her hand, and gently pressed on the transparent barrier. The barrier rippled like water. The core of the creation's barrier may be a little brittle. The barrier here seems to have deteriorated. Only a little part of it is left. I suspect that it is the effect of the distorted energy. There is still a faint remnant of the distorted energy here. I Ching was silent for a moment. If the barrier itself did not break immediately, it should not be a big problem. Can the energy be removed? I've tried to remove a part of it, but there's still an area that I can't completely remove. It seems that all the distorted energy came from this area. It's stuck inside the barrier, constantly emitting distorted energy in all directions. Jing Yuanji said as she used her hand to touch the area that was deeply affected by the distorted energy. When she touched the distorted energy, she felt a bad feeling. That energy had a great influence on the world of order. The area had solidified, as if it was frozen into ice, but there was no way to break it or melt it. Let's analyze it. If it doesn't work, just put it aside for now. The pillar of creation is not emitting any problematic aura. Forget it. I will go and have a look. There should be no problem here. I Ching waved his hand and turned away from the hidden place. Jing Yuanji had just responded when she felt something. She took 2 steps back and cupped her hands in the air. I Ching appeared. He nodded at Jing Yuanji and then looked ahead. Where the starlight fell, the transparent creation's barrier would not appear. That was what one could see in the sky. Looking down, one could clearly see a red. What should he call it? It was like a piece of mageweth, emitting what seemed like threads of energy in all directions. A distorted aura was constantly emanating from it. Part of it was stuck in the creation's barrier, and the other part was still outside. Because of this thing, the creation's barrier appeared like a stinky stone stuck in this place. It could not be removed or destroyed. That's it. Jing Yuanji's slender finger pointed at the thing emitting the red energy threads and shook her head. I just tried many ways. The most I can do is to suppress the energy back into that thing. I Ching also tried to do it. Just as she said, no matter how he moved it, the thing would not react. There was no other way to deal with it other than suppressing the energy and not letting it out. But he still felt that something was not right. It did not feel good to leave it here. After all, it belonged to the distorted race. I Ching did not know if they deliberately left it here, or if there was some mutation or abnormality in the shocking energy collision. I will go and look for Lord Foam. It is better to get rid of this thing as soon as possible. I don't think that the thing left behind by the distorted race is harmless. I Ching said to Jing Yuanji and then disappeared. That battle, well, to put it nicely, it was an earth-shattering battle. In fact, Yin Washing came back and used that one attack. She was physically and mentally exhausted. She rested for a little more than a day on the small mountain before she got up. His little angel advised him to rest more, but he shook his head and refused. It was not a good time to rest. There was a lot of trouble after the battle. The extra energy of the creation's barrier was used, and it was a huge amount of energy. Even the energy of the celestial realm was thinned a lot because of it. He had to deal with these things as soon as possible so that it would not affect the celestial realm. If those guys across the void suddenly made a move, he would be in big trouble. At this moment, Yin Nuoxing was kneeling on the top of the mountain. Her loose robe was spread out behind her, and her long black hair was curled up on the ground. A dark red energy beam was emitted from her body and surged into the sky. After rising to a certain height, the energy seemed to drill into the water, and ripples appeared in the space. The little angel sat beside her to accompany her. That day, the two of them used up all the energy together. She woke up earlier than him and helped Yin Nuoxing recover faster. Now that she saw how exhausted he was, she regretted not putting 2 sleeping charms in his mind so that he could get up and get busy before he recovered. It was not that she could not understand what he was worried about, but if he kept doing this, his already weak body would be messed up. The little angel sighed. She stood up and was about to find a way to calm him down. Suddenly, she turned around and saw ripples on the edge of the space. I Ching's figure emerged from the ripples. She was a little surprised to see Yin Nuoxing sitting on the top of the mountain, so she quickly flew over. Lord Feng. I Ching landed and called out. The little angel raised a finger in front of her red lips, causing him to be slightly stunned. It's fine. Come over and tell me. What happened? Yin Nuoxing's eyes were still closed. Most of her consciousness was immersed in the entire space of the realm of the gods. She seemed to be inspecting and observing something. I Ching nodded and took 2 steps forward. He felt that something was wrong. Yin Nuoxing's body was in a very bad state. Her godly spirit, divine power, and so on were all used up. That day, he really used up all of his energy in that attack. Later, when he saw that there was an opportunity to take advantage of, he no longer had any energy left. He had no choice but to use the energy of the realm of the gods again. There's no need to sense her. She got up before she fully recovered. I don't know what she's doing sitting here. She saw that I Ching's expression was not right. She sighed and explained. She sounded like she was gnashing her teeth when she spoke. I Ching pondered for a moment. When he heard the situation, he thought that if there was nothing wrong, he would use another topic to brush it off. However, what he saw in the creation's barrier was a little serious. His rationality told him that it was better to report first. Lord Feng, we found something that looks like an energy fragment in the creation's barrier. It's stuck in the creation's barrier. It's from that twisted race. The air was silent for 2 seconds. Yin Nuoxing slowly opened her eyes. Fatigue flashed across her eyes. She then slowly stood up and turned her head to look at Haoran. You left something? I Ching nodded solemnly. Out of nowhere, he took out a crystal ball and projected the scene in front of him. Yin Nuoxing noticed the energy fragment at first glance. After thinking for a second or two, she suddenly realized something. Oh, that's it. It's stuck in the place where the creation's barrier was attacked. No wonder when I looked at the whole realm of the gods, I felt that something was a little strange. That's why it hasn't been repaired yet. Lord Feng, what should we do with this? Ugh. I Ching cupped his hands. As soon as his voice fell, he felt that the surrounding space was not right. He hurriedly raised his head and found Jing Yuanji staring at them in a daze. After a moment of daze, he hurriedly bowed to Yin Nuoxing beside him. Lord Feng. She felt that something was wrong as soon as she bowed. She could not help but frown. Your physical condition, it's nothing serious. I'm fine as long as I'm not dying. I don't have time to rest now. Yin Nuoxing shook her head and walked to the energy fragment. The little angel was really angry when she heard that. She gritted her teeth a few times and muttered to herself in a low voice. When the time comes, I'll tie you to the bed, and let you sleep for 500 to 600 years. I won't let you get out of bed until you're well. I Ching and Jing Yuanji were sweating profusely when they heard that. The faint scarlet light illuminated Yin Nuoxing's pretty face red. Her black eyes reflected the appearance of that thing. She gently reached out her hand and suddenly grabbed something in the area filled with distorted energy. You're a little strong, Yin Nuashing whispered softly. She grabbed with her palm and pulled hard. The scarlet light emitted from the area was stimulated, and all of it shrank inwards. The area that looked like the energy fragment suddenly froze, and something appeared in the space beside it. She squeezed hard again, and dark red energy gushed out from her palm. It condensed into a small shock wave that hit the palm. After the shock wave was swept away by the destructive energy, the azure dust formed by the power of space was blown away and gradually revealed what was hidden in that area. It was a fragment. There's actually something inside, and it's really a fragment. Jing Yuanji went up to take a look and said in surprise. I Ching curiously looked at the thing in Yun Nuashing's hand. It was a black fragment about half a foot long and only 3 or 4 centimeters wide and thick. The surface was smooth, and the cracked part of the fragment was uneven. There was nothing engraved on it, no text or information recorded. Just by looking at the material, it was impossible to tell where the fragment came from. Yin Nuashing swayed left and right. He aimed at the sun and glanced at it twice. He couldn't see anything, other than knowing that this thing contains a huge amount of distortion energy. There is no more information. You can't recognize it? I Ching asked. Yin Nuashing shook her head. It's such a small fragment. Maybe it's the wreckage of a weapon. Maybe it's something unique to their world. Maybe. Anyway, there are many possibilities. We don't know which one is the answer, even if we guessed it by accident. Maybe this fragment originally had some information in it, but after being eroded by that energy and being stuck in the creation's barrier and attacked by a completely different energy, even if there was any information engraved on it, it's impossible to leave it now. Just as we were about to come back, you and that little guy found that planet. Now there's a lot of distorted energy in this thing. We can borrow it. Yun Nuashing shook the long fragment and put it in I Ching's hand. I Ching solemnly put it away. With this thing as a guide, it would be very easy to find something in the void. This race is really strange. They throw things around in a battle. Last time, they lost a drop of blood. This time, they threw a strange fragment. The little angel could not help but complain. Is it their unique way of fighting? By throwing things to cause all kinds of damage to the enemy. The three of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. It sounded really funny. Yin Nuashing turned around and was about to go back directly. Suddenly, she stopped and pondered for a moment. Then she turned to Jing Yuanji and the little angel and said, "Don't go to the void for now. Don't let anyone go to the void. I've removed some of the things left in the void of the realm of the gods. There's still a lot of meaningless voices in this void. It seems that there's something special in it. I'm still trying to decipher it. Don't go to that place for now. If you want to go to the void, leave this world first." The two of them cupped their hands and were about to send the observer away. Suddenly, he turned around and walked back. The two of them were stunned. Their eyes followed him to the creation's barrier. He suddenly reached out his hand and touched the barrier where the thing was stuck. The last remnants of the distorted aura in that place completely disappeared. The creation's barrier, which had become a little fragile, was restored to its original state. After the fragment was removed, the energy flow of the creation's barrier became normal. There will be no more problems. I'll leave the restoration of the creation's barrier to you. Go to the pillar of creation and you'll know how to do it. Just do as I said, but it will take a lot of people. Yin Nuashing's forehead was sweating. He let out a long sigh and said, "Phew, this time I really can't do it, but I'll leave it to you. I'll go rest for a while." Okay. You should have rested a long time ago. That's it. We'll go first." The little angel dragged Yin Nuashing away. The portal was still open. The last sentence was left for I Ching and Jing Yuanji to hear. The two of them quickly cupped their hands. When they saw that the portal was closed, they looked at each other and sighed. Master Feng is still working too hard. I Ching scratched his head and said, "Everyone is rested for 3 days. I just heard from her that Master Feng rested for a little more than a day. It's just enough for him to wake up and move around." Jing Yuanji was silent for a moment. Then she sighed and said, "It's Master Feng after all." I Ching smiled bitterly. Lord, we had told him many times about eating. Lord Feng, he was that kind of person. Chapter 13:12. The stability of the laws of the world in which the realm of the gods is located has been greatly reduced. The world core of this world ball of light has been emitting a lot of disturbances recently. It seems to be restless and is suspected to be affected by that distortion. But that's all there is to it, and it won't cause any harm, at least not to the realm of the gods. This world orb of light was once fought over by two powerful forces, so it's understandable that its stability has deteriorated. Recently, there have been some matters in the void, and Lord Maple said that we shouldn't enter the void rashly. We'll deal with it in the prime world, since it's not a big deal anyway. How's the world barrier? The stability of the world barrier has also been greatly reduced. With its current defensive power, I'm afraid that any rebirth realm elite could tear this fragile world barrier apart. But the restoration has begun, and we've also left a divine rune mark on the world barrier. From now on, if any noteworthy target enters this world ball of light, we'll know immediately. Lord I Ching, the information extracted from the Pillar of Creation has been completely imprinted. After comparing it with the divine patterns, runes, mageweds, orders, and laws we saw on the creation's barrier, they're completely similar. The restoration of the world's barrier has begun, but there are not many people who are proficient in the restoration of barriers. Excluding those who are proficient in the restoration, and including those who are helping to restore it, it will take us 1,000 years to complete the restoration of the creation's barrier. The first half of the news was very exciting, but the second half was like a bucket of cold water poured over everyone's enthusiasm. They looked at each other for a moment and could not help but smile bitterly. If the Pillar of Creation were to be repaired by itself, who knew how long it would take to repair it? Even if the heavenly gods and the Empyrean god of origin were to help, it would still take 1,000 years. After all, the Pillar of Creation was the most closely connected to the realm of gods and was related to the foundation of the realm of gods. It would not be easy to repair it. This was all within their expectations, but they still felt a little embarrassed when they heard the 4-digit number. The restoration of the creation's barrier will begin immediately. The manpower problem is indeed, we'll start on our side first. The rest will be recalculated after the battle with Lord Green is over. I Ching waved his hand. The heavenly god who had just made the report hesitated for a moment before saying in a low voice, Lord I Ching, what I just said actually included the people on Lord Ching's side. There was a moment of silence in the hall. I Ching wiped his sweat without a trace. It is indeed a big problem, but let's deal with it first. Well, that's it. Let's do what we just said about the war trauma and the creation's barrier. Jing Yuanji, did you say you found something else? Jing Yuanji, who was sitting next to I Ching, was taken aback. She looked at I Ching with a strange expression and sighed. I've already said it when I came here. It was Lord Feng who entrusted me with the investigation. He asked me to mention it here. You should focus. I Ching's face was full of sweat. He had just finished processing the overwhelming information and was somewhat in a trance at the moment. He could not help but laugh dryly. Let's not bother about that. You go first. Jing Yuanji rolled her eyes and threw an energy crystal condensed from concentrated dimensional energy on the table. A few days ago, after Lord Feng had removed the thorn on the creation's barrier, he called me over. Lord Feng said that there were many inexplicable echoes left in the void where the realm of the gods is, so he asked me to investigate. As she spoke, she touched the dimensional crystal. Soon, there was a dull sound in the hall with echoes. It was like rolling thunder for tens of thousands of miles, like the sound of a behemoth crushing space, or like the sound of a meteorite burning violently as it passed through the atmosphere. In an instant, there was a lot of meaningless noise echoing in the hall. Everyone who heard it could not help but frown. This is a small fragment of my memory, only 5 minutes. Jing Yuanji raised her jade-like hand and gently rolled the crystal. The sound was the one she had heard with her own ears that day, the sound that echoed in the void. What's that? I Ching scratched his head in distress. Jing Yuanji shrugged. She was not sure either. The other Empyrean god of origin muttered to himself for a moment before saying, It's a little like the rumble left in the void after the destruction of a world, but also the sound of laws crumbling inch by inch. However, such a situation would only occur when a large area of laws crumbled at the same time, and Jing Yuanji heard it in the void. Logically speaking, the laws in the void would not collapse on such a large scale, so we can skip over this situation. That leaves only the situation before, or he frowned as if he was thinking or calculating something. The sound in the void sounds like a wail, a painful wail. I Ching suddenly said, I've heard it once before. It's the sound of the void encountering something that is about to collapse. Not long after, the void I was looking at suddenly crumbled and became a land of nothingness. The prelude to the void's turbulence? Someone could not help guessing. Didn't they say that the void's turbulence had begun to appear at the edge of the lower planes? Could that be the reason? The void's turbulence is probably still a dozen epochs away, but I don't think that's the reason. Moreover, we didn't hear these sounds from the void when we were overseeing the divine realm. That race had been here before and only appeared in the void after they left. It can't be that those half-human, half-monster bastards are up to something again, can it? I Ching suddenly thought of something and slowly straightened his limp body. Speaking of which, what's the situation over there? We've tracked down the coordinates Lord Feng provided, but that person hesitated for a moment before carefully saying, there's nothing in that part of the void. What do you mean by nothing? Could it be that they have already run away? Everyone was stunned. After they received the coordinate from Lord Feng, they had sent the fastest Empyrean god of origin, who could still move to investigate in almost the next second. But now, they had only received a nothing. Old Zhang, could it be that you didn't look carefully? Are you sure there's nothing in that place? I swear on my old life that I really didn't find anything there. My divine soul pierced through the entire void and directly into the void, but I couldn't find anything. Old Zhang could not help smiling bitterly and shaking his head. But before I came back, I'd already notified someone to take over my position. Lord Feng's information would never be wrong, so it could only be because of us. Either we couldn't find it, or did they run away? Another person sighed helplessly. If he really did run away, then it really wouldn't be fun. They had searched all over the void for that distorted race, and now Lord Feng had personally taken action to find him. If it really was because of them that they couldn't track him down in time and couldn't find him, then they could retire and return home. Seeing that everyone's mood was a little heavy, Jing Yuanji was about to say something when she suddenly made a soft sound. She thought of something and took out a red brocade pouch from her pocket. As she opened it, she said, speaking of which, Lord Feng said that he left a few words. If we encounter any obstructions, to open it. This should be considered that situation, right? Everyone nodded at the same time, then hurriedly got up and gathered around Jing Yuanji. Then they saw her fumbling around in the bag that looked very small, but could fit an entire palm for a long time before she took out a piece of dark red crystal. It was a calm crystal that was tied with a blue ribbon, and there seemed to be words on it. She carefully placed the crystal on the table and untied the ribbon, and saw a line of words inside. Feeling unlucky? Then let's shoot. There was also a little yin nuashing drawn at the back, with a bow in front of her. Everyone looked at each other and were stunned. Does that mean we should beat him up? I Ching couldn't help but ask. Jing Yuanji couldn't help but look at the dark red crystal. Her jade-like finger gently flicked it, and the crystal made a crisp sound, as if she was reaching out to play with a wind chime, making it produce a crisp sound. The question is, who do we hit? How do we hit him? Where do we hit him? Everyone looked at each other. Strike at that void. Strike at the void we found, but not now. Jing Yuanji seemed to understand what Yin Nuashing might know. She slowly held the crystal in her hand and carefully put it back into the brocade bag and said, I think I understand what Lord Feng means. This is a war that we need to face, but before that, we need to be fully prepared. This time, the enemy is not those from the 3,000 divine realms. That distorted race may be able to fight against the realm of the gods head-on. Everyone nodded, and a fierce aura slowly accumulated in their bodies. They had fought against that mysterious, distorted race decades ago, and for some reason, they had been targeting the realm of the gods. Apart from that, there were also traces of them in some distant void worlds. To other worlds, their existence was like a plague. After that, there wasn't much to talk about. After going through a huge battle where they were suppressed, the main body of the god realm didn't suffer too much damage. However, a layer of its outer shell had been forcefully shaved off. There is also the matter of the stability and laws of this world of light. In short, after being suppressed and beaten up, there were more or less injuries. Moreover, there were even more injuries that couldn't be seen. The things that needed to be dealt with were simply piled up like a mountain. The rest of the story was more or less finished, and everyone left to deal with their own matters. After I Ching and Jing Yuanji came out of the temple, they looked at the sunlight outside and sighed in unison. It's really peaceful. It's true now. I'll go see Lord Feng. Jing Yuanji left after saying that and disappeared. I Ching couldn't help but smile bitterly. Ever since this girl found out where Lord Feng and the others were living, she seemed to go there whenever she had nothing to do. It seems that I don't have anything to do. I Ching stood at the entrance of the temple, scratching his head and stretching his body. Just as he was about to relax, he suddenly remembered something and jumped up in shock. Oh shit, I forgot about that little guy. When he came back from the void area of the 3,000 divine realms, because it was an emergency situation, he brought the little guy back along with him. At the same time, he also brought back a lot of people who were in a state of suspended animation. They had been settled down a few days ago, and although they were lucky enough to survive, their bodies had been eroded by the distorted aura, and now their lives were in a state of slowly recovering. The weak, distorted aura made it impossible for them to wake up so quickly, and they would probably need to sleep for a while. At that time, he hurriedly arranged for the group to be thrown into a place with a strong life aura, and conveniently threw Tang Yin in there as well. I Ching smiled bitterly, patted his forehead, and disappeared like a shadow. A few minutes later, in a quiet forest, there was a blue lake, and in the middle of the lake stood a temple. It looked like an ordinary temple, and there wasn't much of a temperament. I Ching arrived at the temple. Just as he was about to walk to the room, he heard the sound of the door being pushed open. He turned around and saw Tang Yin, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and shorts, walking in from the door. When she saw I Ching, she was stunned for a moment, then happily walked over and shook I Ching's hand. You're here. You left in a hurry that day, as if you had something important to do, so I didn't disturb you. Speaking of which, I haven't formally thanked you yet. Thank you. I didn't expect to see them again. Well, the young man who had regained his spirit was a friendly person. I Ching couldn't help but smile and pat her on the shoulder. It's nothing. From another point of view, we also received your help. Without you, it wouldn't have been so easy to find that space. Tang Yin smiled and nodded. She didn't insist on saying anything. She looked outside the temple and suddenly said, Is this the realm of the gods that you mentioned? It looks a little different from our world. The architectural style and the clothes. I feel like I've come to another world. Oh, I think I've come to another world. The realm of the gods is known as the first major world in the 8 elements realm. Compared to most other worlds, it's just a lot bigger and more powerful. There's nothing special about it. I Ching laughed. But you guys, you're not frightened by the situation outside, right? Outside. I Ching looked a little confused. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly remembered. Oh, you're talking about the fireworks show a few days ago, right? I saw it when I first came to this world. It's so exaggerated. Do you often have fireworks in your world? Those fireworks were completely different from the ones I've seen before. The corner of I Ching's mouth twitched. He felt so awkward that his intestines were about to cramp up. So, when their earth-shattering battle had lit up the entire sky of the Pantheon realm, this little guy was treating it as a celebratory firework. Well, she couldn't blame him. After all, this was the little guy's first time coming to another world. She saw a battle that she couldn't understand at all. Using her own experience to understand it, there was nothing wrong with treating it as a firework show, but it sounded very awkward. Well, it's been quite busy these days. When you first arrived that day, what you saw was actually a battle. a battle that you couldn't imagine at all. It was the fireworks that you saw, I Ching said. Tang Yin was stunned when she heard that. When she thought of the scarlet energy color, she suddenly thought of something. Her expression turned a little cold. The enemy is related to the scene we saw that day? It was indeed them. We had chased them across half the void in an attempt to find their traces. We had also clashed with them before. However, it was only a few days ago that we had our first major confrontation. I Ching shrugged. But don't worry, they were all killed by Lord Maple. No matter how powerful the enemy is, they won't be able to break into the realm of the gods. Ahem, let's not talk about that. I just finished dealing with something and want to rest for a while. How are your sisters-in-law? They're recovering well. Perhaps they'll recover in 2 or 3 days. I've also checked the condition of the others. It seems that they're about the same. I was just about to go to a small town, not far away, to see if I could find something they like when I heard you coming over. Tang Yin rubbed her hands and suddenly laughed dryly. But I might not be able to recognize what they like. After all, it's been a few years. I Ching looked at Tang Yan's emotional and relieved expression and suddenly smiled. She put an arm around Tang Yan's shoulder and walked out. Let's go. It's better to be alive than anything else. Don't think about those terrible memories. Let's go for a walk. I'm going out for a walk as well. After all, you're the first guest I brought back. Tang Yin heard that and fell in a deep thought. Do you often bring people back? It's just a saying. Don't mind it. However, there are indeed people who often go out and bring friends they met in other worlds to the realm of the gods. After all, this world is it? And then, most of them will settle down. Some of them will go back. Tang Yin couldn't help but smile bitterly. Settling down and whatnot. He looked at the distant mountains and the blue sky and couldn't help but take a deep breath. This world was much more beautiful than the one he knew. He could understand why people would choose to settle down here. Shall I give it a try? Chapter 13:13. I Ching and Tang Yin passed through a small forest and arrived at the small town at the foot of the mountain. The small town was the foothold of a large city 10 miles away from here. Standing at the foot of the mountain, they could clearly see the city in the distance. It had a huge wall and a defensive formation that was full of energy. The large city was quite famous in the Divine Land, and a large number of people came and went, making the small town very lively. I Ching and Tang Yin arrived at the small town. Tang Yin did not feel anything when she heard the bustling noises, but I Ching felt as if he had suddenly returned to the normal world. He had been busy with the war for the past few days. Even when he returned to the Pantheon realm, he was in a hurry and had many things to attend to. That was why he did not pay attention to whether the mortal residences in the Pantheon realm were affected. The battle that day was visible to the entire Pantheon realm, so his worries were not unfounded. Although the small town was still bustling with activity, there was a faint tension in the air. It was just a little bit as if the town was in a period of calm after being frightened. All in all, it was still lively as usual. It was just that everyone was a little startled. However, most of the living beings in the divine realm were already very powerful. They would not be used in not having some sort of earth-shattering battle happening every few days. A battle that happened not too long ago would eventually turn into a story that people talked about after a meal. In the future, there would be people who would write this incident into the story of the Guardians. If no one jumped out to say it, it would probably just be that the Guardians came out and repelled the enemy. On the other hand, they found another destruction caused by the battle in the celestial realm. There were posters on the streets saying that the teleportation plaza of the large city 10 miles away was closed. At this time, the energy in the celestial realm was affected in all aspects. Some of it may have been weakened by a lot, but some of it may have changed. It was probably caused by the change in the laws. In that battle, Lord Maple used an extremely large amount of energy in the celestial realm to support his own strength to defeat the enemy, but he also paid a price for it. I Ching looked at the notice and could not help but sigh. He whispered to Tang Yin, "The energy density of the God realm has dropped a lot because of this. The power of the natural order has also been partially affected. At our level of observation, we have yet to see what kind of effect that weak change in the natural order has had. Perhaps this is the first time we have found an area that has been affected. Teleportation can't be used anymore. Tang Yin looked away and asked, "It's probably because of the influence of the rules that the power of space is a little restless." I Ching nodded and scratched his head. "It'll be fine after a while. The energy, the power of laws, and order in the divine realm are all recovering quickly. After all, the pillars of creation aren't affected, and they're spread all over the divine realm. As for their function, well, roughly speaking, they're used to stabilize space, and the energy between heaven and earth will recover quickly because of their existence." I Ching glanced at the notice board. Apart from the fact that all the teleportation portals in the large city had been shut down, there was nothing else worth his attention. He then led Tang Yin down the street. The battle a few days ago was really big. The entire sky was covered by that red energy. I heard that the Lord Guardian was alarmed and was fighting in the depths of the void. After receiving the news, he suddenly came back. You only heard it. I was standing at the edge of the divine realm at the time. The destructive energy almost broke through the barrier and scared me to death. I don't know where those strange life forms that don't look like humans came from. I've never seen life forms like that before. If you've never seen them, I've never seen them either. Oh, by the way, I heard that the main city is looking for circle masters to help repair the portals. The rewards are generous. Looks like the problem is serious. There's so many people in the main city, and they still need to look for circle masters outside. Looks like they've encountered a big problem. Let's go take a look. Who knows, we might be able to help. Staying here isn't a solution. We don't want to fly back or teleport back. I Ching watched the two rebirth realm cultivators walk towards the other end of the town, towards the large city 10 miles away. He couldn't help but ponder for a moment as he overheard their conversation. It seemed that compared to the battle, more people were still concerned about the return to their daily lives. After all, that battle didn't directly affect the divine realm. The battle at the edge of the divine realm only caused minor chaos. It wasn't as big of an impact as Lord Maple's use of the divine realm's energy. After all, the people of the divine realm were used to it all. They had seen all kinds of storms since they were young. Fortunately, it didn't affect these low-level life forms. If that battle caused large-scale chaos, we'd have a headache. I Ching couldn't help but sigh. The people of the divine realm seemed to be very used to it. Tang Yan's gaze swept across the other passers-by. There were nearly 1,000 people on the street, and 90% of them would mention the recent battle in a few topics. Although he mistook it for fireworks, he said, "I see that although the people here were worried and scared, they seem to have recovered quickly. All right, who's this Lord Protector they're talking about?" The divine realm isn't something that ordinary worlds can compare to. It's huge, and the number and variety of life forms are abnormally high. Places where a large number of life forms gather will naturally cause conflicts due to different viewpoints. Although the battle that affected the entire divine realm was grand, the people of the divine realm have seen it many times. Since ancient times, there have been many battles that affected the divine realm, and which one of them didn't cause a huge commotion? Some even directly affected the surface and affected many low-level life forms. I Ching patiently explained. He picked up a small trinket from a nearby stall and looked at it. He smiled casually at the stall owner and spent some money to buy a small pendant. As for the Lord Protector, he's an existence similar to faith for the people of the divine realm. But there's no such thing as faith in the divine realm, so this description isn't very appropriate. Tang Yin was slightly stunned. Speaking of existences similar to faith, he thought of the special emotions that I Ching and a few others had when they bowed to Yin Nuashing. He subconsciously thought that it was him. He couldn't help but ask, "The Lord Protector, is that the one from that day? She sounds very mighty and powerful. I didn't expect her to be a girl." After hearing this, I Ching realized that the little guy had misunderstood two things. First, he mistook Yin Nuashing for a girl, and also mistook him for Lord Hui. I Ching couldn't help but smile bitterly. No, you're mistaken. The divine realm of the divine realm has two divine roles. The first is the protector, and the second is the observer. The Lord Observer rarely shows himself and operates in the dark. The Lord Feng you met is actually the observer. Also, Lord Feng is a man, so don't be mistaken. Tang Yan's face twitched violently. It was understandable that he mistook Yin Nuoshing for someone else. After all, it was his first time in the divine realm, so it was normal that he didn't know about the secrets of this world. But mistaking someone else's gender. When he thought about how a man could be so beautiful, he felt that half of his worldview had collapsed. Ahem, Lord Feng is often mistaken for someone else, so it's normal for you to mistake him for someone else. Don't be fooled by Lord Feng's appearance. He is actually the strongest person in the divine realm. He's just a little lazy. This time, it's because the Lord Protector has something to do that Lord Feng reluctantly accompanied us on our expedition to the 3,000 divine realms. I Ching coughed lightly. The two of them strolled around the town and bought some trinkets. It did not take long for them to reach the end. Tang Yin looked at the huge city surrounded by tall walls in the distance. There was a trace of undisguised curiosity in her eyes. The small gathering point they were was called a small town, but it was already the size of a city in her world. She wondered how magnificent the big city in the other world would be. Want to go there and take a look? I Ching smiled when he saw the curiosity in Tang Yan's eyes. He led Tang Yan to the town's entrance and said before Tang Yan could shake his head, "Then let's go and have a look. We're still recovering for now, so I'll take a look at the situation over there as well." Looking at the situation over there through the portal would allow us to understand the abnormal changes in the space and laws of this world. At present, some of the heavenly gods were repairing the edge of the creation's barrier, while others were scattered across the divine realm to observe the current situation. Laws, order, time, and space were more or less affected by the laws. While the Lord Observer was still bedridden, the heavenly gods had to gather information from all over the world and figure out a way to deal with it. After all, they weren't the two lords with divine titles, so they couldn't directly influence the divine realm on a large scale. It was only a 10-mile journey, so it didn't take much time. Soon, the two arrived at the large city. Just like the small town, the order in the city wasn't affected too much. There were only slight disturbances, but that was because there was no way to use the portal. Many people seemed to be in a hurry. They wanted to use the portal from here, but they didn't expect to be stuck in the city. At present, 70 to 80% of the people in the city were looking at the northeast corner of the city, where the portal square was. At present, many people were gathered there, all of them with powerful auras. Many of them were wearing clothes that showed their identity. They should be from some of the major forces nearby, or perhaps the forces in the city. The structure of the portal was actually more complicated, especially the portal of the Dark Age. The model of the portal hadn't changed much over the generations. 3 huge rings floated in the air, engraved with divine runes and runes. They were used to stabilize the space and determine the coordinates, while the pedestal was used to mobilize the power of space for teleportation. However, the portals of the Dark Age were light curtains like the Milky Way, but the portals of this age were really blue portals. When a portal tens of thousands of feet tall stood in space, the space around it would appear distorted, and the power of space would feel thinner. But now, the portals in the square were all closed. The 3 important rings lay quietly on the pedestal without any movement. There were many people standing on and around the pedestal, and with the square as the background, it looked like some kind of activity was going on. Oh, there are indeed some signs of disturbance in the space of this place. The power of space is somewhat uncooperative. When I Ching walked into the square, he immediately understood a few things. The portal would seize a large amount of the power of space. At this moment, the power of space was coming, but it was unable to enter the portal. There seemed to be some kind of strange energy phenomenon that prevented the power of space from pouring into the pedestal of the portal, causing a large amount of energy to accumulate in this space. It was still daytime, and the sky was a vast expanse of white. Nothing could be seen. If it was nighttime, and the stars were hanging in the sky, one would be able to see a distorted phenomenon in the sky. It was a distortion caused by the gathering of a large amount of power of space. The spatial coordinates leading to Spiritual Light City have been completely disrupted. A portion of the divine runes and the like have also been changed for some unknown reason. Other than that, everything else is normal. It's just that the pedestal and the stone rings are not completely connected, causing the portal to be unable to open. However, I'm unable to find a reason why. The pedestal is normal, the stone rings are normal, and the magic arrays are normal. The divine runes are slightly strange, but it seems more like a change due to disrepair over a long period of time. Spatial energy. This space possesses an abundance of spatial energy, so this shouldn't be the problem. I've used the power of rules to take a look, and the feedback I got back is extremely chaotic. It might be due to the rules. It might be due to some problem with the rules of this area, causing the power of space and the like to mutate. If it's really a problem with the rules, how should we deal with it? Speaking of which, everything was fine just a while ago. Why did something happen all of a sudden? Could it be that the realm of the gods was affected when those bastards fought their way into our home? You guys have also felt that energy, that distorted aura that goes against the order of things. Oh, I'm even starting to suspect that those people are not normal life forms. Why don't we let the teleportation gate's spirit explain it itself? This sentence caused everyone to stop their discussion. Their minds were spinning rapidly, and after a moment, they all turned their eyes to a golden teleportation gate. In this place, only the teleportation gate to the holy city of the divine prefecture had its own spirit. The others did not. It did not take much effort to awaken the spirit sleeping in the teleportation gate. A small golden person floated out of the pedestal of the golden teleportation gate. It looked like a girl, and it seemed a little confused about being awakened all of a sudden. Seeing a group of people staring at it, it felt a little uneasy. The deity in charge of the teleportation gate stepped forward and looked at the small golden person. The two of them did not make a sound, and they just looked at each other. After a dozen seconds, the small golden spirit showed a human-like look of confusion and then shook its head, indicating that it did not know either. Oh, even it doesn't know? After the deity sent the spirit back, he slapped his forehead with a headache. It mentioned a little. It said that the spatial energy gathered in this space is very different from the spatial energy that it is familiar with. Do you guys feel that way? No, not at all. Everyone shook their heads vigorously. They did not feel that there was anything wrong with the spatial energy in this area. Is there no way to solve it? A deity frowned fiercely. It's fine for us, but for the others. Let's not talk about that. Our area has been disconnected from another area for a few days now. If something big happened in another place, it would take a long time for us to find out. The realm of the gods is not very peaceful right now. The deity scratched his head in annoyance. He did not mean to blame anyone, but when he saw that the teleportation gate could not be used, he felt an inexplicable irritation in his heart. He was so annoyed that he even wanted to tear the damn thing apart. However, before he could do so, he saw a figure appear in front of him as soon as he took 2 steps forward. The figure was staring at the huge golden teleportation gate with a thoughtful look on its face. Lord I Ching, the deity cried out in surprise. He hurriedly ran over and bowed. Gotti, how come you have time to come to this place? When everyone saw I Ching appear, their expressions changed slightly. They respectfully greeted him. I Ching and Monarch Green's reputation in the realm of the gods was not small. They were second only to Hui. So many people recognized the two of them. I Ching shrugged. I brought a small guest here for a stroll. I didn't expect to find that you guys seem to have encountered some trouble. It is indeed a little troublesome. It's like this, Just as the deity was about to report, I Ching waved his hand and interrupted him. I took a look and heard you guys shouting here for a long time. I understand what's going on. I Ching waved his hand. This matter is related to the realm of the gods itself. I don't think it will be able to recover in a short time. This matter is not something that you can solve. No, if you guys do it together, you might be able to help a little. When they heard that I Ching might have a way to solve the current situation, everyone was slightly delighted. The deity even cupped his hands. Please tell us, God I. Right now, I don't think this is the only place in the realm of the gods that has this problem. There are many other places in the realm of the gods that probably have the same problem. In fact, it should be because the laws of heaven and earth have weakened slightly. Even the energy attached to the laws of heaven and earth has been affected by it. It's like I Ching thought seriously for a moment. It's actually similar to suddenly going to another world. The laws that you guys know and the energy that you guys know might have changed to different degrees. The face is still the same face, but the person is no longer the same person. Something like that. Doesn't that mean there's no way at all? Everyone could not help but smile bitterly. Don't be hasty. I'm not done yet. I Ching shook his head and pointed to the sky. I said that the laws of the realm of the gods have weakened, but it doesn't mean that they are gone. The weakening is only temporary. Once the laws of heaven and earth recover, it will naturally not be a problem. Actually, if you guys are in a hurry, there is another way, and that is to rebuild a portal and let it use the current spatial energy. However, once the realm of the gods recovers, that portal will be useless again. In the end, it's just an emergency measure. If you guys want to help fix it, come to the Divine Prefecture's holy city in 2 or 3 days. If you guys are from this side, you don't have to come. I'll remind you. I Ching left after saying that, leaving everyone looking at each other blankly. They did remember to go to the Divine Prefecture's holy city. After all, everyone looked at the thousands of portals in the plaza and could not help but sigh. Without portals, they can only go out by flying. These places were very far away. It was fine for Rebirth Realm elites, but what about the others? Chapter 13-14. Under the dim sky, the scarlet flames formed a sea of fire that was large enough to cover the entire world. The dazzling flames swallowed everything, both tangible and intangible. The black smoke that drifted into the air due to the burning was like the countless souls of the dead that were buried in the flames. There was only a deathly silence between heaven and earth. The red lotus hellfire incinerated everything. It would not stop until the world was completely purified. This was a scene that he was very familiar with. He had personally caused all of this to happen, so he could not be more familiar with it. However, this time, he was the only one standing in the middle of the world of flames. There was no one beside him, and there would be nothing. Yin Nuoxing looked indifferently at the realm of the gods that was engulfed by the red lotus hellfire. He lowered his head and looked at the layers of fire that were almost crystallized on the ground. His eyes suddenly flickered, and the scenery in his vision changed drastically. He raised his head in astonishment. Energy exploded all over the sky, and the light of energy flames illuminated the entire starry sky. Violent energy from an unknown source struck the ground from the sky, and the tremors of destruction spread across the entire realm of the gods in an instant. It turned into a continuous sea of fire that spread out in a mighty manner. Earth-shattering energy waves came from the starry sky and the void, almost turning the entire void upside down. Countless figures collided with each other with earth-shattering auras. After each explosion of energy, they dissipated in the most violent explosion, turning into a vast rain of energy. The burst of energy rain was just an energy performance at the end of its life, but it was distorted by their will. It turned into a violent energy that charged at the enemy with the will to destroy everything indiscriminately. Once again, the entire world was drowned in flames. The two scenes actually looked somewhat similar. One took place in the middle of the primordial age, and the other took place at the end of the dark age. Both times, he was right in the center of the drama. In his trance, he seemed to have a feeling that in this world, in this void, in this great primordial realm, only destruction was the eternal melody that would never be extinguished. From the smallest battle to the great reincarnation that happened time after time, it was all proof of this point. The dark energy destroyed every inch of the void in a crushing manner, crushing every world and finally arriving in front of the realm of the gods. At the same time, the huge ball of light also appeared. He could vaguely see something inside, but it also seemed like it was just an illusion. The last scene in his memory was that he saw a white hand pointing at the ball of light, destroying everything in the realm of the primordial and shattering the hope that the realm of the gods had accumulated. Just when Yin Nuoxing thought that the scene would repeat itself, he was the first to wake up. He opened his eyes, and everything in the dream dissipated like smoke. The room reflected the not-so-glaring sunlight. He rubbed his eyes and took a closer look at the room. It was an unfamiliar room, and he couldn't recognize where it was. It didn't exist in his memory, but the familiar sound of the waterfall hitting the water made him recognize that he should have returned to the small mountain. The feeling of drowsiness lingered in his mind for a while before slowly dispersing. Just as Yin Nuoxing was about to sit up, he suddenly felt some difficulty in breathing. He lowered his head and saw a white arm pressing on his neck. Looking in the direction of the arm, he saw the little angel lying beside him. Its long eyelashes were trembling slightly, and its body was emitting a faint holy light. Its body was stable, and it seemed to have recovered well. He still remembered that when they were carried back that day, it couldn't even maintain its body shape. When it woke up a few days ago, it was only barely awake. The inextinguishable light that had been lingering around its body was so dim that it couldn't be emitted. After moving the arm away from his neck and covering the little angel with a blanket, Yin Nuoxing sat up. His expression was a little dazed as he stared blankly at the small room. After being in a daze for about 10 minutes, the door of the room was gently pushed open. The person outside the door saw that the person in the room had woken up, so she relaxed and walked over. "Little star, you're awake?" Yin Nuoxing was a little dazed. He looked at the young and beautiful girl who walked in for a while before he remembered who the person in front of him was. He wiped his face hard with his hand, and after letting out a long breath, he said, "How long have I been asleep?" Sia moved lightly and moved a chair to sit by the bed. Mei Mao stared at Yin Nuoxing for a while. "It's only been 12 days since you were brought back by Sister Ming. **T. Yin Nuoxing clicked his tongue and got out of bed. "How did I sleep for so long? Logically speaking, even if I'm exhausted, I shouldn't have slept for 12 days. My consciousness should have recovered on the 3rd day. Now I don't have so much time to rest, Doug." As soon as he stood by the bed, he saw the little angel clutching his clothes tightly near his chest. When he thought about how he had been unconscious for such a long time, he seemed to understand the relationship between the two. As if she had already known his movements, Siyu quietly stood up and said softly, "Dage and Jing Jiejia have come several times. Yesterday, they told me to tell you that the matter has almost been resolved. If you have not rested well and wake up early, they told me to press you back." Yin Nuoxing was just thinking of a way to take his clothes away from the little angel when he heard this. His face twitched a little. "Almost settled? How is it almost settled? I have to check it myself. If it's something else, I'll let it go. But since it's about the creation's barrier and the realm of the gods, I have to check it myself." He turned around to make sure that his little angel was still asleep. He covered himself with the blanket and was about to push the door open when Siyu quickly blocked the door. She stared at him and said, "I haven't confirmed your condition yet." Yin Nuoxing could not help but laugh. "So what if I've recovered? So what if I've not recovered? Do you think you can stop me?" "I can't stop you. I just want to make sure. After all, they asked me to take good care of you. I can't just let you run away like this." Siyu stared at him and said seriously, "Even if you want to lie to me, you have to lie to me first." Looking at the stubborn girl, Yin Nuoxing felt a little helpless. He reached out his hand and rubbed her head gently. "All right, I've almost recovered. This time, I won't force myself. I can fight another battle without any problems. I'm not lying to you. Are you satisfied with my answer?" Siyu nodded and stepped aside to open the door. "Then take care of yourself. Don't force yourself." "Oh, it's okay. I'm just going to take a look. Let's go." Yin Nuoxing nodded and waved his hand to open a portal. He waved his hand and waved at her. Siyu blinked and watched him walk into the portal. After a while, she remembered that she should be following him. She immediately became interested and stepped into the portal. After the white light of the portal dissipated, a vast land appeared in front of them. It stretched as far as the eye could see and extended endlessly. It was as if there was no end in sight. In the distance, there was a lush mountain range and a lake that was as calm as a mirror. The blue sky was clear, as if it had been washed clean. Thick layers of clouds rolled and overlapped in the sky. Under the push of the wind, it gradually condensed into a sea of clouds. This was the sky of the realm of the gods. Yin Nuoxing could feel that there were a lot of life forces gathered at the edge of the realm of the gods. This was the place with the most life forces. Moreover, there was a presence that he was familiar with. Dense magic circles and runes appeared in the space, connecting to the transparent barrier not far away. They had not yet reached the closest place. Those magic circles and the divine patterns rooted in the space were at least 1,000,000 miles wide. From his point of view, they only looked like a dense pile. If one looked closer, they would feel that the magic circles were comparable to a land. Those energy patterns were like mountains and rivers that spread across the land. Not long after the two arrived, the space beside them flickered slightly. Then, the figures of I Ching and Qing Jun emerged from the void. The two of them saluted at the same time. After the salute, the latter grinned and said, "Lord Feng, you're finally awake. How's your recovery?" "There's still some distance before I'm fully recovered. But it doesn't matter. I'm back to normal now." "Since you're back, does that mean that the battle over at the 3,000 Divine Realms is over?" Yin Nuoxing said casually and changed the topic. "It's over. It's over." He. The smile on Qing Jun's face could not be stopped. A great battle had just ended not long ago. It made him feel comfortable all over, but he should not be smiling like this. Something must have happened. Seeing that Yin Nuoxing's gaze towards Qing Jun had gradually become strange, I Ching could not help but glance at him, who did not intend to stop smiling, and said helplessly, "Lord Feng said before that we should guard every corner of the void. He said that it was not a battle with all our strength. When the 3,000 divine realms on that side were defeated, the other part of the 3,000 divine realms wanted to escape on the other side of the void. However, Big Brother Qing was already prepared and intercepted them. At that time, they were almost able to break the seal of the void and escape." Yin Nuoxing let out a long "oh" after listening. After he warned the whole army to be vigilant, Qing Jun went to calculate and finally predicted where those people might run to and prepared early. Even though there were people left in 17 directions for such a large-scale defense. In any case, it was fine as long as it was a success. The 3,000 divine realms in that part of the void have been completely destroyed, and the sealed void has been reopened. However, we still have some people left there to look for those things that may exist in the void. So far, nothing has been found. It's hard to say whether the distorted race has been destroyed in advance. There's no trace of them at all, Qing Jun added. At the mention of that race and those things, Yin Nuoxing could not help but frown. After a while, he nodded as if he did not care. He turned his gaze to the distance and looked at the tens of thousands of dense formations. "How's the situation in the creation's barrier?" "Part of it has been repaired. It's not difficult to do it according to the method shown by the Pillar of Creation. The only problem is that the progress is not fast. It can even be said that it's a little slow. However, we don't dare to do things at the level of the creation's barrier casually. It's a slow process." I Ching sighed as he spoke. He also found a lot of people. Most of them were people with high attainments and formations to help. Of course, they could only help from afar. Those people would not understand the specifics. It was like copying a book that they had never seen before. There was no difference. The only difference was the speed of copying the book. Slow. Yin Nuoxing was stunned. He looked at the distance, and then at I Ching and the others. "How did you repair it? Did you copy it until it was done?" I Ching nodded quickly. "Yes, that's what you told us. Did we misunderstand something? Did we make a mistake somewhere?" Yin Nuoxing covered his face. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed that he had not made it clear. No wonder they said that the repair process was very slow and even called for a lot of help. But at that time, he was so tired that he could not remember so much at once. Seeing Yin Nuoxing speechless, I Ching and Qing Jun really thought that they had misunderstood something. They were about to break out in cold sweat. Just as they were wondering if they should perform emergency rescue, Yin Nuoxing waved his hand repeatedly. "No, it's not your fault. What you did was not wrong. It's just that I didn't make it clear. He shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The creation's barrier can repair itself. If the entire barrier is spread out, it can be divided into many, many parts. In fact, we only need to repair the core in those damaged parts. As far as I know, the core in the entire barrier has not been damaged to zero. It's just a small wound. In other words, it only needs to be repaired a little. After that, we could just leave the rest to it. Yi Qing and Qing Jun were stunned when they heard that. Then they could not help but smile bitterly. Wouldn't that mean that they had wasted a lot of effort over the past few days? Fortunately, it was not too late for them to find out. Not much time had passed. There's also the problem with the celestial realm's laws. Yin Nuoxing rubbed his bangs. At the mention of this problem that they had been concerned about for some time, I Ching and Qing Jun's expressions suddenly became much more serious. I took a rough look when I got up just now. This time I was reckless. I mobilized a large amount of energy twice and used most of the power of the laws. Part of the foundation was damaged, and it may take a long time to recover. A long time? Does that mean there's a definite way to solve this problem? I Ching's eyes lit up when he heard that. In addition to dealing with the creation's barrier, they had also paid special attention to the weakening power of the laws in the celestial realm. However, they could not find the source of the weakening power, nor could they find a solution. They were flying around the celestial realm like headless flies. Yes, but we need to deal with the creation's barrier first. Yin Nuoxing nodded and pointed at the creation's barrier. We don't need the function or energy of the creation's barrier. Instead, we need to restore the creation's barrier to a complete state so that the pillar of creation can take it back. Then, all of its energy will be used to restore the rules of the divine realm and to pacify the sea of rules in the divine realm. When the laws of a world were destroyed, its sea of laws would not be calm. The turbulent undercurrent in the chaotic sea of laws would not be so easy to calm down. If this power was allowed to churn and accumulate, sooner or later, it would break through the barrier of the laws and surge into the space of the celestial realm. Restore the creation's barrier. I Ching muttered and recalculated the time. The time needed to restore the creation's barrier had been reduced from 1,000 years to about half a year. He thought that it would take a long time to restore the barrier inch by inch, but now he learned that they only needed to restore the core and let the creation's barrier repair itself. Counting all these, it would take more than half a year, but that was not counting Yin Nuoxing. With that in mind, he sneaked a glance at the observer. Yin Nuoxing, who was deep in thought, could not help but smile when he saw Haoren looking at him. Don't worry. Half of this was caused by me, and the other half was caused by my mistake. Even if it's not my duty, I will help to fix it. However, I'll leave the creation's barrier to you two for now. I'll go and calm the ripples in the sea of laws. That's a higher priority right now. Hearing him say that, I Ching and Green quickly cupped their hands. Lord Feng, you did it to protect the celestial realm. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, there's no need to delve into who's right and who's wrong. In short, this has happened. It's an unavoidable fact. If we don't deal with it, the celestial realm's laws will be done for. Yin Nuoxing waved his hand and turned around. His palm drew across the space in front of him, and a deep dark crack opened. A violent storm of laws abruptly surged out of that space. The storm that blew past them made I Ching and Green's expression turn serious. They did not notice that the sea of laws had accumulated such a storm. If it was allowed to continue developing, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the future, it's best not to fight in our own world. I Ching and Green looked at each other and sighed softly. The same thought came to their minds at the same time. After watching Yin Nuoxing and Siyu, who had been silent all this time, enter the concept layer of laws, the two also returned to the creation's barrier. They wanted to spread the news that they had just learned as soon as possible. In the sea of laws, Yin Nuoxing appeared in this deep and dark space with Siyu. It was so dark that one couldn't even see one's fingers, but one could clearly feel that something seemed to be surging here. It was like the feeling of monstrous waves in the sea. Every tremor of power made Siyu tremble with fear. Although she knew that she was hiding in Yin Nuoxing's protection, she still carefully pulled on his clothes for fear that he would suddenly disappear. Looking at the small hand grabbing his clothes, Yin Nuoxing just laughed secretly. He turned his head, held his breath, and danced in the space in front of him like drawing a circle, as if he was fiddling with the storm. Suddenly, there was an uneasy movement in the depths of this dark space, which made Yin Nuoxing stunned. It was not the movement of the sea of laws itself, but something that was hiding in this place. At this moment, it was shocked by Yin Nuoxing's movement and exuded a faint aura of uneasiness. Condense. He fiercely grabbed the area where the abnormal movement came from, and a powerful divinity immediately sealed the space. After feeling the inexplicable, uneasy aura solidifying in that area, he was relieved to deal with the matter of the Sea of Rules. What happened just now? Siyu asked cautiously. I don't know. Yin Nuoxing shook his head. He waved his hand to open a crack in the sea of laws that led to the void, and slowly poured the power into the void. I don't know if something has slipped into this abnormal space. It's not the strange life form that we saw at the bottom of the sea of laws, but something that I have never felt before. Something that you have never felt before? Something that I have never felt before in my life, and I have never seen before in the great Yuan realm. Yin Nuoxing pondered for a moment and shook his head. He did not care about that thing for now. There were many things that he had never seen before in the great Yuan realm. There were so many things that he had never seen before. Even if he had lived for so many years, it was already not bad if he could recognize 1/5 of the things in the great Yuan realm. Chapter 13:15. The chaotic energy in the Sea of Rules was quickly poured into the void by Yin Nuoxing. The originally turbulent Sea of Rules was now like a calm sea with raging waves, calming down bit by bit. Siyu had a deep feeling about this. From the moment she entered, she felt that there was a vast and boundless energy surging in this place, like a rain that covered the world. It was as if the entire starry sky had turned into an ocean that crashed down in front of her. At this moment, under Yin Nuoxing's treatment, she could feel that the rain was slowly weakening. Now, there was only a drizzle and a gentle breeze swirling around here. Siyu had an inexplicable feeling. When she was brought into this space for the first time, it was difficult for her to feel anything. She only thought that she had entered a dark room, but there was a world of gods hidden in this room. Now, after accompanying Yin Nuoxing for a long time, she was finally affected by the divinity. Although it was only a weak part, it was enough to cleanse her from the inside out. She could already feel the movement of the Sea of Rules, but it was still not specific enough. When the rain slowly weakened and there was only a little momentum left, Yin Nuoxing waved his hand and closed the void crack. The rest of the aftermath will calm down in 2 or 3 days. Right now, the Sea of Laws and Order is slowly recovering. Let it move around on its own for a while, and it will recover faster. Yin Nuoxing turned around with a puzzled look on his face. It has already calmed down. You don't have to be so tight. Siyu was slightly stunned. Perhaps she was frightened by the movement just now. Her entire body was now hanging on Yin Nuoxing's body. Her jade arms were tightly wrapped around Yin Nuoxing's neck. She carefully poked her little head out of Yin Nuoxing's shoulder and stared at the dark space. Her face was full of fear and curiosity, which made Yin Nuoxing not know whether to laugh or cry. Siyu's pretty face turned slightly red. She slowly slid down from Yin Nuoxing's body. Her jade-like hand was still clutching his clothes, but she was so embarrassed that she lowered her head. Yin Nuoxing saw this and helplessly reached out to pat her hair. Well, don't worry. I'm here. Nothing will happen. She muttered softly and nodded. Yin Nuoxing turned around and said, Let's go and take a look at the mysterious object that appeared in this Sea of Rules. Yin Nuoxing turned around and looked over. His black eyes gradually turned silver. The black space of the rule sea had some wrinkles in his eyes, like waves slowly surging there. There was only one area that didn't have any movement at all. That was the area that he had just frozen. Moreover, the situation here was somewhat different from the surrounding area. The center of that area was in a state of depression. It was as if a huge monster had suddenly fallen into a calm lake, causing the lake to sink. There was a faint brilliance in the middle of that area. Before he could see it clearly, Siyu saw him in a daze and asked curiously, "What did you see?" The silver light in Yun Nuoxing's eyes remained the same. He thought for a moment and pulled Siyu in front of him. He bent down slightly and pressed his hands on her left and right temples. A few slender fingers pressed against her forehead, and a wisp of divine energy surged into her head. Siyu just blushed because of this action, and in the next second, she saw that the entire dark perspective had undergone a drastic change. She was stunned. This is the true appearance of the rule sea. How is it? Does it really look like a sea? Those undulating lines are layers of waves. It is a sign of the stable rule sea. When these lines that look like layers of waves become chaotic, it means that the rule sea is chaotic. There are many factors that affect this, so I won't go into detail. You will slowly come into contact with each of them in the future. Yin Nuoxing explained patiently. Then, he lowered his head and placed it next to her ear. Their faces were close to each other. He adjusted the angle of Siyu's line of sight and found the place he was looking at just now. Look, that sunken place is where I stopped just now. It's the place where that strange thing is. It's still submerged. We have to fish it out. The words that flowed past her ears made the tips of her ears turn red. The place she saw, the sunken area, was only about 10 centimeters wide from where she stood. It was just a small dot. In this place full of wrinkles, it was easy to overlook it if one was not careful. It was understandable that he did this mainly to help her adjust her angle of view. At the same time, she also knew that he was not interested in taking advantage of her. She just felt a little unnatural in her heart. In the dimly glowing rule sea, Yin Nuoxing suddenly reached out his hand and pressed in that direction. The dense divine runes in his palm weaved into a huge chain that pierced into the sunken vortex. What was strange was that when his divine rune chain passed through the rule sea, it did not affect a single wave. The feeling of touching something came from his palm. Yin Nuoxing reached out and grabbed the divine rune chain. He was slightly surprised when he tried to pull it out. The other end of the chain did indeed feel like it was wrapped around something, but he could not pull it out. That strange thing in a frozen state still had a way to resist his power. This made him a little surprised. It is probably a living thing. It could also be something that has a little consciousness. It has the instinct to seek good fortune and avoid disaster. His palm tightly grabbed the chain. A few holes opened up in the space around him. 5 silver-white chains of order shot out and pierced into the sunken hole, binding the strange thing tightly. This time, with the help of the rule force of the realm of the gods, he pulled harder. He could clearly feel that the thing was moving. Bang! Suddenly, a stormy wave of energy erupted from the depths of the Sea of Law. The Sea of Law that had just calmed down suddenly flared up again. Huge waves rose to a height of 1,000 feet, and the huge energy impacted the 6 chains, causing them to shake violently. "Be honest," Yin Nuoxing shouted. The boiling rule sea suddenly trembled. In a short 2 seconds, it became quiet. The impact caused by the huge energy explosion was eliminated in 2 seconds. It was as if nothing had happened. The dark red energy with the aura of destruction and chaos flowed along the arm to the chains, tightly binding the 6 chains together and extending along the chains to the depths of the whirlpool, entangling that inexplicable thing. Yin Nuoxing lightly shouted and made a pulling motion with all his strength. Seeing this, Siyu also hurriedly got into a horse stance and pulled back with Yin Nuoxing's waist. Yin Nuoxing did not know whether to laugh or cry. This is just an action. The two of us are competing with the rule force. Siyu, it seems to have taken root in this sea of rules. I don't know what method it used to seize part of the power of rules here and tie itself to this sea of rules. I'm now cutting off its connection with the sea of rules here, and then Yin Nuoxing gritted his teeth and pulled with all his strength. The divine runes and the chains of order creaked. "Huh, come out." Hearing this, Siyu hurriedly pulled him out by the waist. Yin Nuoxing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He just took it that this girl was trying very hard to help. Clang! The sound of the rule force breaking shocked Yin Nuoxing and I Ching. However, He reacted in an instant. Two streaks of dark red energy surged out of his hands like lightning and instantly wrapped around the unknown thing that almost fell into the rule force. The two streaks of energy quickly turned into two chains. At the same time, even more silvery white rule force shot out from the side and grabbed the falling thing. Oh, I don't think I can fish it out by myself. I can't use too much energy here. My aura carries the unique imprint of the realm of the gods. If I use too much energy, it will be like me dealing with myself. It will cause great damage to this place. Moreover, it won't be so easy to calm it down this time. Yin Nuashing felt a huge headache coming on. See, you finally understood. No matter how powerful the rule force was, it would be very easy to kill itself if it wanted to. Go and call I Ching and the others over for help. Just say that I've run into some trouble. Bring 4 or 5 people over. Hurry. Yin Nuashing freed one hand and tore open a crack in the rule force's sea. He waved his hand and threw Siyu into it. Before Siyu could react, she heard the sound of wind whistling in her ears. The space in front of her changed from pure darkness to a place with bright sunlight. She was slightly stunned for a moment. She immediately reacted and hurriedly used her rule force to control her falling body. Sister Siyu, why are you here? Where's Lord Feng? This place happened to be the place they had just left. I Ching and the others were stunned when they felt someone suddenly appear. They immediately came over and saw that it was the little girl beside Lord Feng. They were stunned for a moment. Little Star is in the rule force's conceptual layer. He said that he had run into some trouble and asked me to come back and get reinforcements. You guys, Before Siyu could finish her words, she felt a gust of wind condensed by divinity whistling past her ear, and then the space in front of her became empty. She waited for 10 seconds in a daze, and then a mighty divine power came together. I Ching, Ching Jun, and the others came with their people, and there were more than 4 or 5 of them. Hurry! I Ching waved his hand vigorously. Ching Jun yelled and smashed a crack in the space in front of him with a punch that led to the concept level of the rules. Then, a group of people entered in a grandiose manner. I Ching walked at the back and waved his hand vigorously at Siyu. Sister Siyu, go quickly. We're just waiting for you. Siyu? No, she hadn't finished speaking yet. Little Star asked her to call 2 or 3 people. Oh, it's too late. It's like an army starting a war. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she got into the crack and walked into I Ching's order barrier. In the dark rule force's conceptual layer, Yin Nuashing gritted his teeth and made a crunching sound. The chains around him were so many that they almost entangled him, but that thing was still falling. Even he, who was rooted in the concept force's conceptual layer, was being dragged away. The Sea of Rule, which had just calmed down, showed many signs of chaos again. That guy seemed to be exerting force and drilling in at all costs. It seemed to know that he cared about this place very much, and also used some means to make him have to divide his mind to suppress the new chaos in this space. X, who the hell do you think you are? Are you a rule force's creation born in the realm of the gods? Yin Nuashing scolded angrily. After scolding, he shook his head fiercely. If it was really a rule force's creation born in the realm of the gods, as an observer, he should be the first to know. However, he didn't feel any movement at all. A huge aura of chaos spread out from the place where the Sea of Rule fell. That was the reason why that space was close to being penetrated into the void. That guy seemed to be mobilizing the energy of this space to break through the concept force's conceptual layer and escape into the void or the void. Actually, this was also a way. Should he let it drag him down and then deal with it outside? Once he left this space, he had countless ways to torment it until it hovered between life and death. Of course, if this thing was related to the realm of the primeval, he would just treat it as a fart. Buzz! Just when Yin Nuashing was about to lock onto that thing and then fall into the void with it, the space beside him suddenly flashed with light. Figures with powerful auras suddenly descended beside him, making him breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed that the backup plan would not be used. You came at the right time. Come and help me. Why are there so many people? As soon as he turned around, Yin Nuoxing was stunned. When he asked Siyu to call for reinforcements, he only asked her to call for 3 or 4 people. For example, Yi Qing, Qing Jun, Jing Yuanji, and a few others would be enough. What was going on with a group of people all of a sudden? Lord Feng, we're here to support. What are you doing? Yi Qing and Qing Jun rushed in aggressively. They were about to kill everyone, but they saw nothing. When they saw Yin Nuoxing's strange posture, they were stunned again. Let's not talk about that first. Come and help me. Whether you use the rules to bind it or the chains of order. Help me tie up that thing. While speaking, Yin Nuoxing was fiercely pulled and almost fell into that space. Yi Qing and others saw that the situation was not right, but they had no time to ask anything. They quickly dispersed, and the chains of order and rules suddenly shot out and rushed into the sunken space. Yin Nuoxing waved his hand to let the chains around him guide them. Together, they wrapped around the inexplicable thing. The sudden increase in power surprised the latter. It struggled frantically to escape from here, but it was bound by the pervasive energy containing divinity. After struggling for a while, it suddenly stopped moving, but a strange aura was transmitted to everyone's senses along the chains. Yin Nuoxing was also startled by the strange aura, but he didn't think much about it. He pulled hard with his palm, and thousands of chains swayed in the sea of rules with a clattering sound. A thing that was tied up like a dumpling appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Then, it slowly burst open and turned into a round stone ball about 10 feet in size in front of them. Yin Nuoxing was stunned. Everyone was also stunned. Just now, they clearly felt that the thing had an extremely strong resistance. If it weren't for their strength in numbers, it might have really run away. As a result, what they fished out of the sea of rules was a stone lump. Lord Feng, what exactly happened? What is this stone? Yi Qing looked confused. Just now, when I poured out the power accumulated in the sea of rules, I felt something. It's the thing you see in front of you. I just struggled for a while, but because I couldn't use my full power, I had no choice but to ask for your help. Yin Nuoxing shrugged. Let's not talk about that first. Chapter 13:16. The mournful cry sounded like the cry of a person who had been exiled for countless years and finally found her family. The small valley suddenly cooled down. There was no sound of wind or water. There was only dead silence. Yin Nuoxing was stunned for a long time. Her head was full of question marks, and she did not know what to say. As for the little angel, she was completely dumbfounded. The only one who reacted was Siyu. She did not understand the relationship between the two. Based on the name, she thought that the ball of light that had just transformed was the younger sister of Sister Ming. Then, she nodded in understanding. She did not feel that anything was wrong. That was why people said that the ignorant were fearless. However, when she saw that the two people's expressions were not right, she tactfully did not say anything. She stood quietly at the side and became a part of the background. However, Yin Nuoxing and the little angel, who knew the situation, were horrified. As far as they knew, it did not have any sisters. It was not very accurate to say that until now. It should be said that it did not have any sisters. But now, it seemed that its siblings had appeared a long time ago. Perhaps there was only one in front of them, or perhaps there were many more. After being together for so long, Yin Nuoxing almost forgot that the little angel was actually born from the abnormal abyss death fog. It was made by the people of the underworld. Similar arrangements seemed to be everywhere in the void. Perhaps most of them were failures. Perhaps even if there were successful ones, they would not be noticed. Just like the little angel, they were immersed in a world of nothingness all year round and did not think about anything. Until one day, a little girl ran out in front of them and recognized her as family in front of them. At this moment, Yin Nuoxing and the little angel were confused. They did not think about what to do when this little girl appeared. On the other side, Yin Nuoxing was still thinking hard about how to deal with it. However, the little angel had already reacted. The golden Mei Mao stood up. Her eyes were full of indifference. A long sword formed by the angel's sacred flame appeared in her hand. In an instant, the sword was pointed at the little girl's throat. Her killing intent was overflowing. The little girl was still in the joy of finally finding her family. She did not expect the next scene to be like this. She was so frightened that she screamed in horror. Her face turned pale. Yin Nuoxing finally reacted. She quickly pressed down on the little angel and asked, "What are you doing? Our existence and location have been exposed." It said coldly, "Little star, don't forget who created her and me. I can feel the exact same aura. She and I are the exact same existence. Her existence is a threat. They can find us through her. I don't care about siblings. They're all fake." As if she could feel that she had accidentally triggered her elder sister's rage points, the little girl obediently shrunk her head and spoke of her experience in a small voice. "I woke up about 20 years ago. My surroundings were dark, empty, and empty. I could feel that I had woken up early." The little angel narrowed his eyes. When she was talking, he and Yin Nuoxing were monitoring her thoughts. "You woke up prematurely? The cradle was broken?" "Aha, that's what happened." The little girl was sitting on the ground and laughed dryly. Her little feet moved restlessly. "I don't know what happened specifically. It seemed like a destructive thought was slowly approaching. I was very scared and slipped away in the opposite direction of the destructive thought. However, I didn't go far before I saw two strange people appear there. I could recognize them. They seemed to be my creators. I used the energy of my cradle to hide and waited for them to leave before slipping out. However, I didn't know where to go or what to do. You saw them too?" The little angel was slightly surprised, "And you deliberately avoided them." The little girl nodded. "In my dreams, I kept hearing them asking me to do bad things. They asked me to kill people, to destroy something. I was tired of listening to them for a long time. I kept feeling that there were two old swindlers nagging in my ears, so I didn't want to see them." The little angel turned around and looked at Yin Nuoxing. Coincidentally, he looked over as well. The two pairs of eyes met, nodded slightly, and then looked away. Yin Nuoxing asked, "What happened after that? Where did you sneak off to?" When the little girl heard him speak, she immediately grimaced. However, when she was stared at by the little angel, she instantly quieted down and said softly, "I don't have a body. I wandered in the dark for a long time until I saw the light of life and other life forms. Only then did I remember that I seemed to need a body. Then I went through a lot of trouble. The information that the creators instilled in me day by day allowed me to quickly understand this world. I know that I was wandering in the void before this. I know that those shiny things were every world. I know that they didn't like those things and wanted to destroy them. And I also know that they were constantly searching for something in the void." Yin Nuoxing and the little angel were stunned. They had previously guessed that they might be looking for something in the underworld, but they didn't expect it to be true. "Those are your creators. You didn't listen to them and instead sneaked out?" Yin Nuoxing said with a faint smile. The little girl lowered her head and muttered, "Because it was so annoying. I didn't want to listen to them. It felt so boring. Even if I went to their place, I would probably be nagged at every day. Just thinking about it gave me a headache, so I snuck out." Yin Nuoxing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So this was a rebellious child. "I wandered in the void and wandered between every world, searching for many years. I also didn't know what I was looking for. I had a feeling in my heart, a very weak feeling. I followed that feeling and wandered in the void until one day I felt Big Sister's aura in the void. Then I knew what I was looking for." At this point, the little girl's big eyes stared straight at the little angel. There was unconcealable joy in her eyes, as if she had forgotten that she was shrouded in a murderous aura. Well, after all that, it was actually the story of a little girl looking for her family. Judging from a description, she should have woken up in the lower realm. Her cradle was destroyed by the weak signs of the void turbulence, so she woke up prematurely. Then, she followed the weak feeling in her heart and searched all the way. After 20 years, she finally found the little angel, his aura. Then, she followed that aura all the way to the realm of the gods and was finally caught by him. Although he got to meet her sister as he wished, he still felt that it was a little funny. How should he put it? It sounded a little too innocent. He didn't know if she was that innocent, or it was just his imagination. In this chaotic situation, he felt that every visitor who appeared in the realm of the gods had some unspeakable secret. He had no choice but to be overly sensitive. He just felt that it would be troublesome if some things were to appear in the future, so it was better to be vigilant of everyone now. So far, it didn't sound like there was any problem. The two of them had been listening to her heart all this time. She wasn't lying, just a little excited. They didn't rule out the possibility that she was hiding something, but it was difficult to get those out of her. As for why she was looking for them, the little girl answered frankly. Other than those nagging words, there was only a faint feeling left in my heart. If it were you, what would you do? Yin Nuashing thought for a moment. If it was really a feeling that he felt was very important, he would probably continue to chase after her. After that, the matter was left unsettled. Yin Nuashing thought for a moment and decided to let the little angel and the little girl talk by themselves. He then pulled Siyu aside and slipped away. Isn't Sister Ming an angel? Siyu couldn't help but ask. She felt dizzy when she heard the words creator and creation. Yin Nuashing paused for a moment and turned his head to look at her. He thought for a moment and continued to walk forward. This matter is a little complicated. It's not easy to explain it in a few words. Oh, Siyu said and didn't say anything. She wisely didn't ask any complicated questions. A strange little girl suddenly appeared and claimed to be the sister of the little angel. To be specific, she should be the second generation of the special abyssal death fog life form created by the underworld. The little angel was the first generation. There might be a big difference between the two, such as the difference in rules, or more, or it might just be the difference in time. Regardless, there was one more person in the house. Yin Nuashing's intuition told him that the little girl did not have a deeper purpose or any deeper thoughts. She was purely a person drifting alone in the void for a while and suddenly felt very lonely. Then, she searched for her own familiar scent and followed her sister's scent all the way to this place. To be honest, he didn't have much resistance or other thoughts. He was already on his guard. Whether the little girl stayed or not, she would not be a threat. He was more curious about what the little angel was planning. The little girl was also a little flustered by the sudden appearance of her sister. That was why she left some time for them to get along and talk. But in fact, there was nothing to talk about. The two people had never met before. The only connection they had was the telepathy in their hearts. It was also the proof that they were created by the same rules. Well, how should he put it? He felt a little worried about the little girl. When he looked down at the ring on his finger, he suddenly understood where this feeling of worry came from. His cheeks couldn't help but twitch. He shook his head hard to get rid of that feeling and sighed faintly. Why are you sighing? The voice of the little angel came from behind. Yin Nuashing was startled. He turned around and saw the little angel slowly walking out of the forest. The little angel looked at Siyu, who was sitting on the edge of a cliff 6 or 7 meters away. Then, the little angel fixed its eyes on him. Are you troubled? Not really. Yin Nuashing shook his head. You guys are done talking so quickly? I thought you guys would talk for a little longer. We're done. There's nothing to talk about. Compared to her sister, she's more of an unstable factor that we need to be careful of. Oh, 5 minutes ago, she unilaterally finished talking and fell asleep. I heard that she has been searching for us in the void for the past 10 years. According to our original track, she seems to have circled the entire middle plane. It said softly. Yin Nuashing was speechless. Circling the middle plane? Did she follow the scent left behind by that unknown thing in the middle plane? Why? You don't believe her? I don't know. Whether I believe her or not, we are the same. I'm sure of that, but I'm not sure if the truth behind it is the same. If it was in the past, I would probably be glad that I have another one of my kind that I can communicate with. Perhaps I would be happy. I would share everything with her without holding anything back. But now, the little angel looked up at him and lowered its head in silence. Yin Nuashing walked forward and patted the little angel's silver hair with a smile. You don't have to worry about me. You don't have to worry about it. Just do what you want to do. If she is really as bad as we think and causes a disturbance to us and me in the future, I will bear all of it alone. The little angel opened its mouth and shook its head. That's not logical. It doesn't make sense. Yes, if it was in the past, I would never say such a thing. I would even think that she was a potential threat. For the future of the realm of the gods, I would rather kill the wrong person than let her go. If I thought so, she would be gone by now. Yin Nuashing stroked the little angel's long hair. Then why? The little angel looked up in confusion. There's no particular reason. It's just that you're happy and happy. But because you suddenly have to care about a lot of things, you can only pretend to be at a loss. Seeing you like this, well, it hurts a little. Yin Nuashing smiled as he held the little angel's face with both hands. He reached out and pinched the little angel's delicate face. That's the reason. The little angel fell silent. The two of them looked at each other without saying a word. Siyu sneaked a glance in their direction, but she quickly turned her head away. A few minutes later, the little angel smiled helplessly. You're also a willful fellow. Very willful. It's been like this from the beginning. Yin Nuashing shrugged and added, and you've never been a reasonable fellow. The little angel took a step forward and slowly opened her jade-like arms to hug Yin Nuashing tightly. She rubbed her pretty face against his pretty face and whispered in his ear, "Thank you." Yin Nuashing was stunned. I'll bear all of this with you, whether it's the future or a sudden anomaly. We've made a promise. It won't change. Yin Nuashing hesitated for a moment and smiled helplessly. He also reached out and hugged her tightly. He patted her back and said, "Silly girl." He raised his head and sighed softly. You don't have to bear all of this. It's just my willfulness. Unfortunately, the little angel was thinking the same thing. The two idiots had the same idea. After all, the little angel carried so many of his memories. Her behavior and personality were more or less similar to his. On the other side of the cliff, Siyu felt like a big light bulb hanging in the sky. Her whole body was glowing. However, the two people ignored her as they talked about everything. This is the first PDA in my life. Siyu murmured. She turned around to look at the two people who were stuck together but didn't have any romantic atmosphere. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. She reckoned that not many people in the entire void could create such a strange atmosphere. Chapter 13:17. The strange little girl who suddenly appeared in front of him, who claimed to be, in fact, the younger sister of the little angel. Her arrival meant many, many things. For example, those fellows in the underworld might have researched something, and they seemed to be able to create something that they wanted with a little bit of success. This special creation of rules, a life that was born from the death fog of the abyss, their characteristics were all close to order, and there was no difference between them and normal life forms. Yin Nuo could not see anything special about them. Intuition. The peak of the origin intuition told Yin Nuashing that the little girl's arrival must have some special meaning. It must be very special. Well, he could only say that word after holding it in for a long time. He was still confused. The little angel was also a little concerned about this little sister who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They were of the same race, and the only difference was the time of birth. Even though Yin Nuashing knew that the army of the underworld was coming, he could not help but laugh. Pity those guys in the underworld. Entity number 1 had been hiding under their noses for who knows how many years, and entity number 2 had slipped out under their noses. In the end, they still did not know that they had successfully created 2 special abyssal death shroud life forms. It was good news for the entire Order faction. The other news was that they must still be stirring up trouble in the depths of the void, but they did not have much time to pay attention to it. The trouble caused by the resonance of the timeline had not shown any signs of subsiding. If they did not solve this big trouble of the faction's internal strife, they would never be able to gather their forces. His and Huey's initial plan would only turn into a big trouble. In other words, their previous efforts would be in vain, and Yin Nuashing did not want to see that happen. Oh, is this the realm of the gods? It's much more powerful than I imagined. It's so big. Yuan Kong took a deep breath and shouted at the sky. Her voice did not even reach 50 meters before it was annihilated by the wind. She looked at the city below with excitement and joy. Seeing that it stretched to the end of her sight, she fell into an inexplicable excitement. I've been traveling the void for many years, and I always heard people talking about the realm of the gods. I just happened to follow my sister's breath and came here. When I found out that it was the realm of the gods, I was so happy for a long time. But I can't see anything on the level of the rules. I can only feel the purest things in that place. It seems that the rules are a little more complicated than other worlds, and the power of the rules is a little stronger. It has more strange marks, but there is not much difference. I can only see it when I enter the real world. This world is of a special world. Yuan Kong skipped in the sky as she ran into the distance, and then plummeted towards the city below. The little angel's face twitched and quickly chased after her to catch her. Slow down, don't run around. Yin Nuoxing could not help but sigh as he watched the sisters chase and play in the sky. By the way, she was the one who gave it that name. It means originated from the void. Yin Nuoxing pondered for a moment. Although he wanted to complain that she was not a void being like Ji Kuan, he thought that it was reasonable and did not complain. A strange creation of rules born from the wreckage of many worlds, a life form of the death shroud of the abyss. He felt a headache just thinking about it and decided not to say it. That little girl seemed to have been locked up in a small dark room for as long as an era. Now that she was finally released, she had so much energy that Yin Nuoxing felt a headache. At this moment, he just wanted to have a quiet rest. Today, Yuan Kong acted like a spoiled child to her sister for half an hour. The little angel couldn't stand it anymore and came to find him. Then, the four of them sneaked out to go shopping. Thinking about what happened 10 minutes ago, Yin Nuoxing felt his head buzzing. When Yuan Kong was acting like a spoiled child to the little angel, he had been listening by the side. The little girl was wearing a light yellow dress and looked to be about 14 or 15 years old. Her head only reached the little angel's chest. She was skinny and small, with a slightly pointy chin. Her long black hair was so wide that it covered her ears. The expression on her face and the light in her eyes were full of vigor and a little mischievousness. She did look like an overly lively child. Yuan Kong had urgently transformed when she saw the little angel and seemed to have a preference. Speaking of which, she did not look like a pair of sisters with the little angel, but when the two people ran together, it was easy to think that they were a pair of sisters. Perhaps it was because their breath was exactly the same. The faint aura they exuded made people think that they were a pair of sisters. He almost blurted out the words mother and daughter, his brain going berserk. The little angel, who was being pulled by Yuan Kong and jumping up and down, suddenly turned her head as if she sensed something. She threw Yuan Kong aside and came to Yin Nuoxing's side. Yin Nuoxing and Si were both stunned. Oh, what's wrong? The little angel looked at him from head to toe. Suddenly, she opened her mouth and bit him on the neck. Yin Nuoxing trembled all over. He didn't know whether to express that he was in pain or that he was feeling very strange. Humph. You must be thinking of something bad. I can feel it subconsciously. The little angel smacked her lips and turned around to fling her silver-white hair to the side. Then, she and the little angel were too lazy to pursue the matter. After returning to the small mountain, Yin Nuoxing greeted Siyu and walked into a small house. He suddenly built it last night. With the addition of Yuan Kong on the small mountain, he had to consider the problem of housing. Then, he used 3 minutes to build a few houses. They were all very simple. They were square iron boxes. Other than sleeping in them, there was no other use. Yin Nuoxing walked into the iron box and closed the door with his back facing her. Inside the iron box, there was only a bed made of jade. It was emitting a warm aura that regulated the temperature in the iron box. He stared at the bed in a daze and slowly counted down in his heart. When he counted down from 100 to 30, he began to walk towards the jade bed. However, before he could really get close, his vision suddenly turned dark. His body experienced weightlessness and overweight in an instant. It happened in an instant, but he regained his balance in an instant. He staggered and immediately stood up again. It's 30 seconds earlier than I thought. Yin Nuoshing lowered his head and looked at his hands. It was so dark that he could not even see his own fingers. It was like a void, but it did not have the aura of a void. He could only see himself and nothing else. He had a similar situation yesterday. It was a very special feeling that suddenly arose in his heart. At first, he did not know what was going on. He was just waiting for that situation to happen. It was as if he had chosen to close his eyes and turn around when he felt that someone was swinging a knife at him. He knew that he would be chopped, and he was just waiting for that moment to happen. The feeling this time was 30 seconds earlier than yesterday. Yesterday, he only stayed in this dark and empty space for half an hour before leaving. Nothing happened. He did not know if something would happen this time. No matter what would happen later, something had already happened. His body probably fell to the ground. He did not know if his head would hit the bed. If it did, it would be very painful. Speaking of yesterday, when Yuan Kong first arrived, he subconsciously linked this situation to her. However, after checking for a while, he dismissed this idea. This strange situation seemed to be related to himself and his soul. It had nothing to do with that strange girl. It was just a coincidence. Hello, is anyone there? Yin Nuoshing thought of the voice and suddenly shouted into the darkness around him. To his disappointment, there was no response even after 5 minutes. It was not like the feeling of being pulled into a strange space. In short, he felt that he was always dealing with this kind of endless darkness. After all, there is a saying that consciousness was born from the source of darkness. Before one's consciousness was completely awakened, all he could feel and know was darkness. However, every time he experienced it, the nature of it was different. He did not know what was going to happen this time. It was probably not something good. He was just thinking. In fact, he did not know what was going to happen. He had no premonition at all. Even his usually sensitive intuition was not working. Anyway, it's not a good idea to stay here. Let's go deeper. Yin Nuoshing stretched his body. He turned around and pointed in a direction. Then, he calmly lifted his foot and walked forward in that direction. The extreme day drove away the curtain of night. The inextinguishable sunlight shone on this vast world that made people doubt their existence. Extreme flames and extreme energy poured over this world, cleansing every corner of this world. A rain of fire. Yes, it was a rain that carried the flames of destruction. A rain of stars, a rain of doomsday. The stars fell from the stars and washed half of the realm of the gods back and forth so many times that they could no longer see what was going on outside. Every minute and every second, there was an endless amount of energy outside. Every time there was a flash of energy, it was enough to make a divine champion break out in cold sweat. Now, only a third of the fourth round of the Rain of Stars had passed. It was not even a quarter of the time. The magnitude of the stars that had descended was already several times that of the previous 3 rounds combined. It was as if an entire star field of stars was crashing down on their heads. Being able to endure the first 3 rounds of the Rain of Stars was already a milestone. Since they had half a month to prepare for the 4th round, it should not be a problem to endure it. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. If the barrier's consciousness had not said that this is only a small part of the entire star field, they would have fainted from joy. Defense of the astral barrier has decreased. Follow the plan and retreat to the 2nd level of defense. Rotate the barrier of the gods. Hold it up. All nodes report. From now on, we will endure the bombardment of the stars for 6 hours. If you can't hold on, don't push yourself. Teams 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6. Remember to replace your members at any time. Shifter warriors, let these little raindrops see the courage of our race. Hold it up. These are 60% of the post-god tier weapons in the realm of the gods. Bring them all. With these things maintaining the defense, we should be able to hold it. It was worth mentioning that half of the realm of the gods had finally recovered after half a month of rest. Many of them had volunteered to join the massive allied army. while the other half had used their own reserves to protect the crumbling Allied army. Under the mobilization of several major races and the four celestial gods, almost the entire demon race had emerged from the demon realm and joined the Allied army. Unknowingly, more than half of their initial plan had been completed. The remaining half consisted of the realm of the gods and the demon world, the companion realm that had been slammed in the face by the rain of stars and had yet to move. Now, only the barrier gate that had been opened in the northern barrens reminded everyone of the existence of that world. Other than that, there was not a single sound. Clearly, no one from the realm of the gods had the mind to send someone to the demon world to see what was going on. With their own lives hanging by a thread, who would have the time to care about a mortal enemy that had been at odds with them for dozens of eras? The creation's barrier has been emptied of energy. It can be reopened. Lord Barrier, keep it for now. We can still hold on at the front line. Let's use the creation's barrier the next time we reopen the astral barrier. At that time, 70 to 80% of us would be exhausted. It would be better to leave it there. The 9 temples were now less than 1,000,000 miles away from the front line. The 9 temples were located at this location, which was the last barrier separating the Divine Land, the Ganyuan region, and the Kuan-Yuan region. The Source Peak region and the Zenith region no longer had any reason to hold them back. At this time in the 9 temples, many gods, several heavenly gods, and the temple masters of the 9 temples were gathered in the Fire Temple. They were nervously looking at the front line that was less than 1,000,000 miles away. Every time a light spot appeared in the colorful sea of energy flames, it meant that there was a burst of super energy. Every time that happened, the barrier would tremble slightly. The barrier combined the power of more than half of the lives in the divine realm and almost all of the demon clan's power. Its defensive power was very strong. It was not only because there were more people supplying more energy, but also because it was integrated with the efforts of countless lives. It was several times stronger than the combined barrier half a month ago. Phew! I just checked the divine realm and confirmed that there shouldn't be any problems. At the front line of the barrier, all the energy nodes have been confirmed. The space of the demon realm has also been isolated by the power of rules. Yuan Feiyong wiped off his sweat. The heavenly gods were probably the busiest and most tired people during this period of time. It couldn't be helped. After all, they were the only heavenly gods in the divine realm. Yihong was not much better off than him. That half a month of rest was simply a drop in the bucket for them. Now that the divine realm's energy was seriously exhausted, the laws were too weak for them. Otherwise, why would they be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth? Under such circumstances, even the recovery of energy was extremely slow. Oh, right, they also had new companions. The heavenly god of the sacred Xian pavilion looked at them, his cheeks twitching slightly. You're all heavenly gods. Can't you have some manners? Manners? Yihong raised his head and glanced at the group of half-dead heavenly gods. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. What's there to be polite about? Hurry up and get some rest. Didn't you hear what Lord Stronghold said? His predictions might be off every time. That brick is about to hit us in the head, so predictions won't be of much use anymore." The heavenly god of the sacred Xian pavilion's cheeks twitched violently. He could not help but sigh. Actually, his situation was not much better. Half a month ago, when he was still sleeping, he was suddenly knocked unconscious by 7 or 8 heavenly gods and brought here. At that moment, he knew that he had fallen into a trap. He could not help but turn his gaze and look to the other side. A flirtatious woman in a fiery red robe was half sprawled on the table. She also looked exhausted. That was the heavenly god of the great spirit tribe. They were the ones who wanted to unify the divine realm. In the end, they were knocked unconscious by the heavenly gods of the small divine land. The reason was that they did not have enough manpower and urgently needed 2 coolies. Oh no, 2 helpers. The situation has changed. Boom. Everyone in the hall stood up. The 100 or so heavenly gods and heavenly gods all looked at the consciousness of the stronghold. They were so nervous that they were sweating. Every time it said this, it was a sign that something big was going to happen. In the past half a month, It had said many times that the situation had changed. As a result, 1 or 2 late stars had crashed into the Taiyuan domain. They had even crashed into the ruins of Xingming City. Who knew how far to the west? Now, the meteor shower was coming right at their faces. They must have gotten lost and were late. The second time the situation has changed, they saw fireworks in the demon world. The third time the situation has changed, they saw fireworks in the rear of the divine realm. They guessed that the sun might be a little confused and could not find the right place. The fourth time, it directly blew up everyone in the demon world. The fifth time, the sixth time, it could not give an accurate answer. So this time, when these words came out like a curse, everyone in the hall was so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. The consciousness of the stronghold was silent for a moment. When everyone was so nervous that their brains were almost fried, it slowly said, "The fifth meteor shower." Everyone's heart skipped a beat. It was expected that there would be a fifth meteor shower. It had been said in the past half a month that the meteor shower would continue until the brick hit the Taiyuan domain and the Zenith domain. After that, it did not mean that the disaster was over. On the contrary, it was the real beginning of the disaster. We have observed the birth of multiple void, mist-fused bodies. They will appear in front of the divine realm at the end of the fifth meteor shower. If there is no accident, that should be the case. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The void mist fusion referred to the suns that had been completely turned into black lumps by the energy of the void mist. Those guys were much more powerful than the energy stars that were erupting now. Generally speaking, a combined barrier that could last for 6 hours would be declared useless after withstanding 20 of them. Directly colliding with the creation's barrier and the astral barrier would also cause a great impact and cause a sharp drop in defense. However, what they had to deal with was not just a few black suns. There were also a lot of stars that they had to deal with in the future. Moreover, each round of star showers was much more exaggerated than the previous one. It would have been a miracle if half of the celestial realm had been able to hold out until now. Half a month ago, it would have been a miracle, but now miracles would come to an end. This day will come. We have been prepared for a long time. The heavenly god from the demon race let out a long sigh and paced back and forth in the hall. The good news is that there is still half a month before the fifth meteor shower. We need to rest well in this half a month. Everyone, if you have any tricks up your sleeves, don't hide them. The demon realm has a treasured land that can draw in a large amount of rule power and the energy of heaven and earth. It can help us recover faster. What is there to hide? There is no need to hide anything now. The heavenly goddess from the Great Spirit Clan side. I originally wanted to gather all the forces of the divine realm to deal with the demon world. I did not expect this meteor shower to happen halfway. My plan has been messed up. The Great Spirit Clan does not know of any special methods to recover energy, but we have a divine power weapon that is suppressed under the ground. It was left behind by our ancestor. We can use it as an energy node. It should save us a lot of energy. Everyone looked at the heavenly goddess in surprise. Palace Master Jean and the others could not help but look at her. When they heard that the Great Spirit Clan wanted to unify the divine realm, they thought that she was going to cause trouble. Who would have thought that at this time, the heavenly goddess laughed bitterly. I know that my previous actions and my announcement will not be liked. But at that time, the demon world was about to come out. I did not have too many tricks up my sleeves to take care of too many things. I just chose a path that seemed to be safe. Who would want to be the bad guy? Cough, cough. Let's not talk about this. Anyway, I've already taken out all my cards. If you take away that ancestral artifact, it will affect the Great Spirit Clan greatly, right? Yihong could not help but look at her. Not greatly. It is just that the clan's rule, power, and energy density will not return to that level for thousands of years. After all, it will cause quite a commotion when it is taken out. She grinned, revealing a row of pearly white teeth. Everyone looked at each other and nodded. Seeing that the heavenly goddess was going all out, they did not intend to hold back any of their trump cards. They all revealed their trump cards. The stronghold's consciousness's eyes were empty. It did not pay attention to what was happening in the hall. Its consciousness was immersed in other places. It held Yin Nuashing and observed the divine realm. After a few minutes, it suddenly raised its head. An extremely complicated message flowed through its eyes. Once again, a sentence caught everyone's attention. Observed a special situation. Abnormal situation. Severity. Unknown. This statement, which had never been heard before, caused everyone to break out in cold sweat again. Even their clothes were soaked. They had never heard of such an exaggerated statement. They quickly asked, "What happened again?" The stronghold's consciousness did not answer immediately. The energy and information in its eyes flowed faster and faster. It suddenly raised its head and looked at the top of the fire god temple. Felt the weak flow of my consciousness. There is a 10% chance that it is returning. Boom! The entire hall was in an uproar. Everyone from the nine-god shrine rushed out and crashed into the wall. Ziyi, Ziyin, and the others who were listening in the corner were stunned by this sentence. In the next second, they all shouted and rushed out. The others were stunned. Yuan Feiyong and the others looked at each other and couldn't hold back their curiosity. They hurriedly chased after them. That guy finally reacted. After half a month, it had been a long time. Chapter 13:18. His consciousness was completely immersed in the endless darkness, but he didn't feel afraid. He didn't have the feeling of eternal loneliness. He felt a faint, warm feeling. He missed it very much, very warm. In this dark and boundless sea of consciousness, he didn't know where this feeling was coming from. Sea of consciousness. Yes, he seemed to know where he was now. The sea of consciousness that had always been hidden in his consciousness, and he didn't know what it was used for even until now. Not many people had understood this sea of consciousness since ancient times. Perhaps he could take a peek at its true purpose now? Well, that was just wishful thinking. Even Feng Ling, who was at the pinnacle of origin, didn't know what it was used for. He felt that unless he could reach that level in this lifetime, he would only be guessing blindly. No matter what, he felt that he should be walking in the sea of consciousness. However, it was different from the first time he entered the sea of consciousness. He didn't feel anything around him. When he first came to the sea of consciousness with Violet Knight, he could clearly feel that there was something there from all directions. This time, he was walking alone. As for getting lost, his intuition told him that he had embarked on a path of return. Paradoxically, he didn't know where he was returning to. He just followed his intuition and kept walking forward. As for where he would go, he didn't think about it at all. Perhaps he would return to the 51st era, or perhaps he would return to the 139th era. It was like a bridge that connected two places. One end led to the 51st era, while the other led to the 139th era. He had both realities at the same time. That's right, they were both realities. It wasn't a dream. Both were realities that happened simultaneously. He stubbornly believed that he didn't intend to change it. If he looked into it deeply, he might become a part of this boundless sea of consciousness. Waving his hand to disperse the haze in his heart and the fog in front of him, Yin Nuashing took a deep breath. His heavy footsteps suddenly became lighter. He continued to walk forward in the seemingly endless darkness until a bright light appeared in front of him. Yin Nuashing narrowed his eyes. That light spot was very dazzling and very warm. At first, it was just a small 8-sided star. After he noticed it, he subconsciously started to jog. That light source rapidly expanded in front of him, turning into a light curtain, a white wall of light, and finally a white passage of light, guiding him forward. He heard a call that he had not heard for a long time. There was a force slowly pulling him out of the bridge in the sea of consciousness. Someone was calling him. He knew where he was returning to. The light stuck to his eyelids. The scorching light poured into his eyes. He could feel his consciousness slowly flowing into a body. Slowly, he regained his senses. The call that he heard just now became a real voice that was beating in his ears. At the top of the fire sanctum, Lord Jean and the others stood in the middle of the platform. They were so anxious that they were jumping up and down like ants on a hot pan. In the middle of the platform were Xian, Ming, and Little Purple Soul. A group of little girls surrounded the platform and shouted at the person lying on the stone platform in the center. Their cries were filled with complex emotions. It was almost tear-jerking. All right, that was just an imaginary scene. In reality, Ziyin and the others had only called out to him with mixed feelings when they rushed up to the platform. After that, only Ming Ming and the others' intermittent calls could be heard. Temple Master Jean and the others were standing not too far away, nervously looking at the person lying quietly on the stone platform. There was nothing they could do other than worry about the person they had been thinking about all this time. After all, the barrier's consciousness had just said something to calm them down not too long ago. I can sense that the fluctuation of the consciousness of the main body is gradually strengthening. The probability of awakening has increased from 10% to 70%. I can already calculate the time of awakening. If there are no accidents, there is still half an hour left. What followed next was half an hour that felt like years. Little Purple Soul was the only one who was fearlessly sitting on Yun Nuoxing's stomach. The others were quietly guarding by the side, calling out to him from time to time. Nightmare stood 6 meters away and looked at this scene. He could not help but mutter in his heart, "It looks like someone is mourning." He knew that if he said this out loud, he would definitely be thrown out to blow up the sun, so he only dared to say it in his heart. Little Qing stood quietly, with little Huan in her arms as she prayed. The tips of her green boots subconsciously turned on the ground, almost drilling a hole in the top platform. Shi Chun and Shi Yun knelt beside Ziyin. The two little girls put their palms together and lowered their heads as if they were praying. They could even hear their younger sister, Shi Yun, counting silently. Judging from her voice, there were less than 10 minutes left. Hearing this, everyone broke out in cold sweat, all because they were holding back their breaths. It's been almost half an hour. Why hasn't Lord Yun returned yet? Yihong wiped the sweat off his forehead. He was anxious and could not help but pray in his heart. "Shoo, there's still a few minutes left. Wait a little longer." The goddess, who is also from the little divine land, said softly, "I can also feel that some kind of aura is slowly recovering. It's probably the process of his consciousness returning." Yuan Feiyong looked behind him. They were already standing far enough away. Behind them was the staircase at the top of the temple. There are dozens of people there who were looking around curiously. A few minutes later, Little Purple Soul seemed to have sensed something. She quickly jumped down from Yun Nuoxing's arms and jumped up and down excitedly. "Big Brother is back. He's really back." Everyone's eyes widened. They all looked at the stone platform in the middle of the temple. The scene they saw almost made their eyes pop out of their sockets. Black clouds spread out from the stone platform. However, they did not drift out even an inch. They circled an inch around the stone platform, appearing and disappearing continuously. At this time, the clouds were gently brushed past and changed their flow. The figure, who had been silent for half a month, slowly sat up. His long silver-black hair slowly gathered as he stood up. The black clouds were also disturbed by his movement. The pair of eyes that had been closed for half a month slowly opened. A silver-black and a dark red light flashed through them. The chaotic energy that leaked out shocked everyone. They quickly took a few steps back. When he opened his eyes again, the first thing that entered his eyes was a vast expanse of new energy stars. The violent impact shook the entire world as if it was about to be turned upside down. This was a familiar scene. It had been like this before he left this space. Everything seemed to be no different from that day. Even if he was not here, the realm of the gods still existed and withstood the destruction of the stars. No, something was different. He was back. He seemed to have brought something back. Was it the special ability he had acquired when he went back? No, it seemed to be his. The dark red energy that he had awakened. Was it because of the process of his dream, or was it because Feng Ling was supposed to acquire that energy and now it was awakened in him? Although the result was the same, he was a little confused about the process. Oh yes, speaking of which, it was a little unbelievable. The silver-black energy that combined the sins of the world and the elements of chaos did not have much of an effect on him. The dark red energy that contained the aura of the god of destruction was protecting his soul at this moment. It was a little unbelievable. It was not a good time to talk about this now. There were dozens of pairs of eyes staring at him on the platform. There were familiar eyes and familiar faces. There were also some new faces. Yin Nuoshing slowly turned around. Like a person who had just woken up from a deep sleep, he slowly turned around. His black eyes swept across the platform. Those who made eye contact with him could not help but be stunned. Those who were familiar with him were stunned. Those who saw him for the first time turned their heads away in fear. Long time no see. A few minutes later, all of the silent gazes and the eerie silence dissipated after a voice that contained a hint of a faint smile. A long time no see, boss. No. Nightmare was the first to come out and greet him. He was stunned for a moment after he responded subconsciously. Then he shook his head vigorously. What do you mean by long time no see? It's only been half a month. Half a month? That's both expected and unexpected. I thought it had only been a short while. Yin Nuoshing smiled and slowly stood up from the stone platform. Perhaps it was because he had been sleeping for too long, or perhaps it was because his body was not used to it in such a short time. His body went limp. Be careful. Xian hurriedly reached out to support him. When she came back to her senses, not only her but everyone else gasped. That guy was still an energy body that was occupied by the elements of chaos. If they touched him, they would be, he seemed to be fine. Your elements of chaos. So I took a few steps forward and looked him up and down. She could not help but reach out and pinch his face. Hey, you're really fine. Yin Nuoshing stuck out his tongue. The dark red energy seemed to have suppressed the silver-black energy. Right now, the elements of chaos would not run around randomly just because he had fused with the sins of the world. They would not indiscriminately infect anyone who touched him. Not only that, everyone also noticed that his expression seemed to have returned to its original state. He was no longer as cold as before. He was no longer so cold that it seemed like he wanted to destroy the world at any time. Although he was still in a state of fusion with the sins of the world, his body still emitted an aura that made people feel uneasy. Reminiscing, there was nothing to reminisce about. To everyone, he had only slept for half a month. However, Yin Nuoshing did not feel that way. He had spent nearly 100 years in the Dark Age. In reality, it should have been about 1,100 years. However, he had spent those 1,000 years in the world of the little angel. Where have you been for the past half a month? Ming, the true angel, finally found a spot. He squeezed through the gaps in the crowd and came in front of Yin Nuoshing. He stared at Yin Nuoshing with his beautiful big eyes. They had the same face and the same voice. The only slight difference between the two of them was usually hard to distinguish. During those decades, it seemed like she had always been by his side. It made him feel a little emotional. He could not help but reach out and stroke her long hair. I went to a place very, very far away. It was so far away that even time and space became blurry. Xian could not help but ask, "Did you really go to the Dark Age?" Yin Nuoshing chuckled soundlessly as a reply. He was supported by Yin as they slowly walked to the edge of the platform. He said slowly, "It's probably because I've been stubbornly searching for it. That's why this happened. I've been wandering around in the Dark Age for more than 1,000 years in the 51 eras. I've gradually understood the things that happened during those years, and I might have continued. Everyone was stunned. Probably it's just a halftime break. I also came back inexplicably. I don't even know what happened. Yesterday. Oh, at that time, there was just a little sign yesterday. Today, I sneaked back. Until just before I opened my eyes, I didn't even know where I would sneak to." Yin Nuoshing shrugged. "Do you still want to go back to the Dark Age?" Xian could not help but squeeze his hand a little tighter. "Yeah, probably. Things over there are not over yet. There are still a lot of things. I'm witnessing the things of that era. Many things. I'm also an observer. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I didn't expect that I was already so busy for the realm of the gods during the Dark Age. I was running all over the void, running all over the world. Occasionally, I even had to go on expeditions to other worlds that were plotting against the realm of the gods. Oh yeah, before I came back, I just led the people of the realm of the gods to clean up the void. Everyone was speechless. They were all numb. After all, he had always been so good at what he did. During the Dark Age, the void was extremely chaotic. We and I were the guardians of the divine realm at that time. The two of us performed a timeline resonance, squeezing more than 10,000 timelines around the origin world into the origin world. The void was densely packed with world lights. We wanted to let those people know about the death fog of the abyss, which is now known as the void fog. We wanted to let them know about the underworld. And then under the impetus of the calamity, they resisted. Before they could gather their strength, the void was about to collapse, and Hui and I had to deal with the internal strife of the Order faction. Everyone was speechless again. As expected, this guy was still good at what he did. As I was busy, I would occasionally have thoughts of not being able to distinguish between dreams and reality. After all, to me, what happened over there was also a real reality. Yin Nuoshing patted Xian and gestured for her to let go of him. Then, he slowly walked to the edge of the platform. Perhaps I was also worried about the reality here, so I had no choice but to come back. Well, seeing that you all have protected the realm of the gods so well, I am more or less relieved. Although this era is terrible and there's not a single fully active heavenly god, we have to face that thing. Yin Nuoshing took a deep breath. The black fog around his body slowly disappeared, and in its place was a dark red energy that flowed. It carried with it a destructive energy that could shatter heaven and earth. Everyone on the platform could not help but take a few steps back in shock. As soon as they steadied themselves, they saw something that left them speechless. 6 huge dark red divine rings slowly appeared behind him. That was a level higher than the heavenly gods. The ancient shackles shall vanish with the dust, and this world shall change with my will. In the name of Feng Ling, the observer of the realm of the gods. The dark red energy condensed into a beam of light that was only 3 meters wide. It suddenly burst out from his body and went straight to the sky, into the void. It blasted a huge hole in the void, and behind that hole was the land of nothingness. It also led to the conceptual layer of the 8 elements realm. The red energy beam plunged into that huge hole in an instant, pouring endless energy into that layer. Rumbling sounds came from the sky. It was not the sound of heaven and earth, but the void. It was the sound of the void shaking violently. Everyone in the realm of the gods, even at this moment of life and death, felt the movement and looked up in shock. In the void, other worlds, other life forms, and all life forms in the 8 elements realm, whether they were cultivators, mortals, or other life forms, all looked up blankly. At that moment, they felt a little abnormal energy fluctuation. Something was happening in the void. Why don't you take a gamble? Yin Nuoshing turned his head to look at the crowd and smiled. The dark red energy beam on his body gradually extinguished. He stroked the sky with his palm, and the big hole in the void trembled and slowly closed. Finally, it disappeared. What? Yuan Feiyong could not help but ask. Yin Nuoshing clasped his hands behind his back. The 6 dark red divine rings were still shining and trembling faintly. However, it was not because of the lack of energy. They still looked solid, but something was happening. Yuan Feiyong and the others narrowed their eyes when they saw it. The feeling of the divine rings trembling seemed to be familiar to them. With the order of this world as the stage, the entire realm of the gods, and everything in this world, Yin Nuoshing looked up at the white world brick that was rumbling towards him. With me, a heavenly god at the pinnacle of origin, and perhaps even more, with everything the Order faction has as the bargaining chip, we are betting on this world and the future of this world. It's just like the end of the Dark Age, the end of the 59th era, the battle that destroyed the entire greater realm of the origin. It's just like the reincarnation of history, and this moment is about to play out in the 8 elements realm. However, only the realm of the gods and the netherworld will play out. No one else will be at our command. That was the battlefield of the end of the world, the only battlefield. There were only 2 endings, victory or death. There was no other way out, and it would not be too far away. I've brought forward the arrival of the great reversal by 900 years. There's still 100 years left. This world still has 100 years to usher in the ultimate reversal, and when that time comes, you can do something like that. Ihong could not help muttering. The heavenly gods can't do it, and the other heavenly gods of origin might not be able to do it either, but I can. There must be some special reason, but it's too complicated to explain. Yin Nuoxing turned and smiled at them. Supreme God Yin. Yuan Feiyong put his hands together and could not help but say, "You seem to be about to break through." Yin Nuoxing was slightly stunned. He turned his head and looked at the 6 divine halos that were constantly trembling like lightning. It was as if they were about to fall apart. He immediately understood. How could he not know what this movement meant? It was just that, ha! He suddenly covered his face and laughed, then shook his head in front of everyone's puzzled gazes. This might be the limit of my life in this lifetime. I've prepared for 4 eras, waited for 4 eras, fought for 4 eras, and spent countless days and nights to reach the realm of the heavenly god of origin. But Yin Nuoxing's expression softened slightly. He let out a long sigh and said faintly, "But that was 70 years ago. 70 years ago it was all gone." Zai frowned and poked his face with her jade-like hand. "Spit out if you have something to say. What did you do? Why did you stop here all of a sudden?" "Oh, it's nothing." Yin Nuoxing scratched his head. "It's just that I almost died together with a heavenly god of the underworld. Everyone. Above the Empyrean gods was the Empyrean god of origin, and above the Empyrean god of origin was the heavenly god of primordial beginning. He was the one who had told everyone about this, and now everyone present knew about it. Now that they heard that he had killed the heavenly god of primordial beginning as a peak Empyrean god of origin, they all broke out in cold sweat. To break into the heavenly god of origin from the heavenly god of origin, one needs to condense a divinity carrier. I prepared it for 4 eras. Then I blew it up. Although I killed that guy, I almost killed myself. In the end, I survived, but there's probably no hope for me to enter that realm." Yin Nuoxing spread his hands and sighed. "I don't know about the divinity carrier, but can't you make a new one after blowing it up?" The Golden Princess could not help but ask. "I discussed it with Hui for an entire night, and the conclusion was, no, I can only find another way. Well, I'll try to see if there's any other way to squeeze into that realm. Whether it's to deal with the matters of that era or the disasters of this era, it seems that the power of that realm is needed. My head hurts. It feels very difficult." Yin Nuoxing scratched his head in distress as he spoke. He stretched his back and turned around. When he saw the complicated expressions on everyone's faces, he waved his hand casually. "Let's not talk about those things for now. It gives me a headache whenever I talk about them." "It's really..." As Yin Nuoxing spoke, he saw that his clothes were glowing. He quickly pulled his collar open and saw that the pendant inside was emitting a purplish-red light. He reached out and touched it lightly. Suddenly, the pendant spat out something. He caught it with one hand and opened his hand to take a look. It was a black fragment, as if it was a piece that was broken off from some object. Cold sweat broke out instantly. That was the key to the burial ground of the heavenly gods of origin. Chapter 1319. Speaking of that place, Yin Nuoxing still had a lingering fear in his heart. He and his little angel had been there once, and judging from the present and the past, it was inevitable that he had obtained the key. Even if the primordial realm was overturned and struck by lightning, it would not change anything. That black fragment of the key seemed to have appeared because it had sensed the dark red energy. However, back in the Dark Age, he had directly used the dark red energy to activate the fragment, but there had been no reaction. If he had stimulated it a little more, it might have opened the door. It was not like today, where there had been some inexplicable activity. Perhaps, after dozens of eras, there had been some new activity in that dead land. But was that possible? It originated from the energy of the fallen great heavenly gods. The great cycle of reincarnation that the heavenly destruction god had guided had directly destroyed everything there. Only boundless divine destruction storms were circulating in that sealed star region. The natural laws there had almost ceased to exist, so there shouldn't be any possibility of it being restored. After so many years, would there still be new variables appearing? Well, after all, it was the first generation of great gods. Everything was unknown. Perhaps the energy they had left behind was indeed abnormal and could cause some activity in that completely dead space after dozens of eras. While he was deep in thought, the pattern of gold and red gradually appeared on his hand, causing his eyes to tremble. The mark of origin. He thought that it was just a dream that he and his little angel had been there. He thought that the mark of origin would disappear with his reincarnation. Now it seemed that it did not. It was not a dream. It was something that had really happened. It was an established fact. It was not a deviation in the dream. From his current perspective, he was destined to go to the burial ground of the heavenly God of origin. He was destined to see that illusion. He was destined to touch the inextinguishable bloodstain on the broken throne. He was destined to enter that illusion. He was destined to see that scene and be stained with the blood of the gods. Now, he felt a chill run down his spine. Little star, Yun Nuashing woke up and put away the glowing fragment before the mark of origin spread all over his body. The mark also disappeared after it disappeared. He turned to look at Xian and smiled. What's wrong? Is it all right for you to maintain your heavenly origin god form? You said before that it wasn't the right time. Don't worry, they won't be able to recognize me. Let alone them. I'm afraid even you guys won't be able to recognize my current aura. Yin Nuashing shook her head. Everyone carefully sensed for a moment and was stunned. Indeed, there was only a very weak part of his aura. It seemed to belong to the primal chaos element. Now, his entire body was filled with endless destructive aura. His original aura was almost covered up. Even if they do recognize us. I can't wait for them to come to me while I'm still in this state. Yin Nuashing grinned, and her pretty face darkened. That way, I can take the opportunity to kill them. Of course, if they also have the primordial beginning heavenly god on their side. Just pretend I didn't say anything. Yin Nuashing shrugged. Playing with one life and killing one. How many lives do you have left in this life? Sigh. Combined with the energy nova that exploded outside the barrier, the galactic wind blew into this space and messed up Yin Nuashing's mood. It also made everyone feel inexplicable. After a while, someone remembered that it was still a dangerous time. It was enough to catch up on old times and make use of the time to recover. Many gods and heavenly gods looked at each other and took 2 steps forward. Then they were stunned. That's not right. Now that the big shots of the deity realm have returned, and they're at the legendary peak of origin, they should be able to take some time to relax and recover, right? Then they told Yin Nuashing about this matter. In the end, they got an even more shocking answer. I won't make a move for the time being. Although I'm at the peak of origin, the underworld. I don't know what the underworld is like in this era, but during the Dark Age, there were more than 10 primordial beginning heavenly gods in the underworld. Yin Nuashing said faintly, I'm worried that if I make a move, I'll alarm something in advance. The current deity realm isn't ready to face a battle of that level. The current me isn't ready to face a battle of that level. The entire top floor of the Fire God Temple was filled with an atmosphere of low morale. Otherwise, how could the entirety Yuan realm be pierced through at the end of that era? Even after exhausting all the energy of the Yuan realm, countless heavenly gods and divine spirits burned their lives and souls. They were still like moths to a flame in the face of that power. They gave everything in exchange for the end of that era. Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh. In the battle he saw in the eternal nightmare, the battle at the end of that era, only the heavenly gods were left. Perhaps it was because he could only see the heavenly gods battle. The heavenly god of Origin's laws made it difficult for him to replicate the battle. He couldn't tell if he only saw the heavenly gods battle or if he actually saw the heavenly gods battle, but could only replicate it in the form of the heavenly god. Who knows? Outside, the rumbling of the meteor shower was still as loud as before. The torrent of energy crossed the entire deity realm, and the loud noise reverberated crazily in everyone's ears. However, everyone only felt a deathly silence around them. They couldn't even hear their own heartbeats. The creation's barrier. The creation's barrier. Yin Nuashing murmured twice. A silvery white light flashed in his eyes, and he helplessly put down his raised hand and let out a long sigh. As expected, more than 70% of the creation's barrier in this era has been damaged. I was wondering why the creation's barrier couldn't withstand a mere meteor shower. It could withstand the great reincarnation, but couldn't withstand a brick. During the Dark Age, the creation's barrier could withstand the attacks of hundreds of heavenly gods of origin for several hours without being damaged. That was even more exciting than the great reincarnation. Yin Nuashing snapped his fingers, and the creation's barrier's figure appeared with a whoosh. He waved his hand and said, "When you have time, try to repair the creation's barrier. It's in a terrible state right now." The creation's barrier's eyes flashed, and after a moment, it nodded and disappeared in a flash. Yin Nuashing sighed again. He could only repair part of the creation's barrier. After all, compared to the Dark Age, many of the pillars of creation had been destroyed in this era, and they had disappeared along with most of the other regions of the God Realm. However, he never expected that the pillars of creation, which he thought would never be damaged, would be damaged. The towers that carried the traces of time were like monuments that stood over the God Realm, and the history recorded on the monuments would fade with time and eventually disappear. It seemed to be a matter of course that the pillars of creation would disappear one day. After using the Empyrean God of Origin's energy and the power of laws to adjust the space where the 9 divine temples were, the gods and deities led by Yi Hong and Yuan Feiyong felt that their energy was recovering at a much faster rate, and they quickly found a place to recover, while leaving some of them to monitor the situation in the combined barrier in case of an emergency. Their boss could not personally defend the God Realm, but he was risking his life in another dimension, so they naturally could not fall behind. Well, it was actually a thought that came to them after they submitted, but it had unwittingly taken root as they were busy working for the God Realm. It had been a long time since the night had descended upon this dimension, upon the realm of the gods. Yin Nuo had woken up and everyone was talking to each other, but the meteor shower outside had turned everything upside down. At this moment, the realm of the gods was far away from the united barrier, so they could not hear the rumbling of the destruction. Even though they were enjoying the illumination of the night, they could still see the terrifying flashes of the new energy stars. It was like a flickering ray of light in the dark night, and they could also see the destructive shock waves sweeping across the sky. Although the night had descended, it was a night filled with strange phenomena. Yin Nuo had used his rules to cut off the transmission of sound, returning peace and quiet to the realm of the gods, but he did not intend to erase those phenomena. From his perspective, at this moment, the realm of the gods was too weak and could not be compared to that era at all. He needed to make some early preparations for the future, and this meteor shower was an emergency baptism. He hoped that the survivors would understand how precious it was to be alive at this moment. The future, there was really no time for them to slowly grow up. Yin Nuashing stood at the edge of the platform, one hand on a stone pillar as he looked out at the vast night sky. He watched as the destructive energy rumbled above the combined barrier, but there was no one beside him. Yi Hong and the other gods had gone to recover or take precautions, while the people of the 9 gods' temple had gone to provide backup. There were also personnel arrangements, as well as the spiritual temple. There were many things to do, and even Xian, Violet Knight, and Fenger were helping out. Yin Nuashing's guess was a little wrong. He did not expect that he would be the only one watching the meteor shower when he finally returned. He calmed down and thought about what he could do now, what he needed to do now, and what he needed to face a few minutes later. He scratched his head with a headache. He realized that whether it was the Dark Age or here, there seemed to be nothing he could do in a short period of time. Whether it was the realm of the gods or himself, there was nothing he could do. The 6 dark red halos around him were still spinning, and the divine patterns on them were shining brightly. If we saw this scene, he would probably be so envious that he would pounce on Yin Nuashing. The time of the seal was up, and the door to the primeval realm was open for him. However, he had lost the key. He could only watch as that path was separated from him by a thick door that he could not cross and could not open. He was quite disappointed. If it wasn't time yet, he wouldn't show it. He would still slowly search for that path. However, at this time, the time of the seal was up. This made him rejoice, but also made him feel extremely disappointed. He waved his hand over the pendant, and a cool object fell into his hand. Yin Nuoshing lowered his head and saw the mark of origin, which was a mixture of gold and red, appearing on his palm. Slowly, patterns appeared on his arm as well. It was exactly the same as what he knew. The mark of origin had already existed on his body. He did not pay attention to it. He lowered his head and kept stroking the key in his hand. It was emitting a faint dark red light. It was resonating with the energy in his body, as if it was guiding him, as if it wanted him to go to that place again. To be honest, he was a little scared. He was a little resistant to that place. He did not want to go there. There would be a time when he would go there again, but definitely not now. An unstable Empyrean state. Looks like even if that power is awakened, it won't be able to maintain it for long. Yin Nuoshing pinched his other hand and couldn't help but frown. The awakening of power comes from the awakening of memories. It sounds quite strange. He reached out and pointed at the place where the stars were shining brightly. Silver light flashed in his eyes. The transparent creation's barrier moved as the light in his eyes changed. He felt a headache when he saw the state of the creation's barrier. Most of its core was completely damaged. 70 to 80% of the energy patterns had been extinguished. Even its self-repair had almost stopped. Its state had stopped at the moment when its self-repair slowed down. It was only left with the lowest level of defensive ability. During the ancient times, he only knew how to repair the pillar of creation and did not care about this barrier at all. After dozens of eras, he finally tasted the bitter fruit. I did not expect that at the time. Yin Nuoshing did not know whether to laugh or cry. There are still traces of the great reincarnation on the creation's barrier. The presence of the void, and there are several different types. TSK, these things are troublesome to deal with. Troublesome, really troublesome. His mouth was full of disdain, but he moved quickly. He was very familiar with dealing with the creation's barrier. In short, he had been a miserable maintenance worker since the Dark Age. He could not avoid it no matter which era he was in. It had been almost 70 eras since he last repaired the creation's barrier. The mess gave him a headache, just like when he repaired the pillar of creation some time ago. This, and this. This will do. This needs to be remodeled. This, and this. While he was busy repairing the many cores of the creation's barrier, he did not stop muttering. The rumbling of the stars did not affect him at all. An hour later, Yin Nuoshing stretched and looked at the rippling creation's barrier in the sky. He breathed a sigh of relief. The presence of the great reincarnation and the void has been cleared, and the core is mostly repaired. The area covered by the creation's barrier has also shrunk along with the shrinking of the realm of the gods. It will be much faster to repair it. The rumbling of the void occasionally reverberated in the sky, as if there was a dull thunder flashing in the sky. It did not attract much attention when the stars were descending. Yin Nuoshing looked at it and felt that there would not be any accidents. He wanted to sit down and rest for a while. But before he sat down, he suddenly felt darkness in front of his eyes. A pair of soft and warm hands covered his eyes, and he was slightly stunned. The person behind him didn't say anything, but let out a soft chuckle that sounded like a wind chime swaying, with a hint of familiar mischievousness. Yin Nuoshing thought for a moment, then stretched out his hand to remove the hand that was covering his eyes. He smiled and said, "Okay, I got you. The hide-and-seek of the past dozen years is over." Turning around, as expected, he saw a young girl in snow-white clothes standing behind him. Her beautiful eyes were like limpid autumn waters as she looked at him with a smile, just like when they first met. She still had that mischievous expression. The passage of time didn't seem to have matured her at all. That doesn't count. I came to you myself. It's more like you were caught by me." Yu Yin's Mei-Mao looked like a crescent moon. She reached out and patted his head. "Why are you so tall? I can't reach you." Yin Nuashing was speechless. Actually, when he thought about it carefully, he was not very tall among the people he knew. He was just about right. Oh, speaking of which, maybe he would not be mistaken as a girl if he was a little taller? Heartless little brat, I waited for you for so long, but you didn't come to find me. To think that I even left a message for you. Yuin pulled on his silver black hair and swung it back and forth, and the words she said made Yin Nuashing stunned. Yin Nuashing scratched his head. Although I knew that you were taken away by the Yu family, you didn't tell me. I only found out about it after I returned to Xingling City. Huh? Back then, you only said that you were going to leave for a period of time, but you didn't tell me where you were going. The realm of the gods is so big, and I hadn't recovered my identity as an observer back then. How was I supposed to find you? In the end, I couldn't find you even after searching all the way. Yin Nuashing shrugged and couldn't help but sigh. Yuin was slightly stunned. She suddenly laughed and said, "Ah ha ha ha. Let's not talk about that. No, I want to talk about it. You probably forgot to write it down." Yin Nuashing said seriously, and it's the kind of message that you would remember at the beginning and forget later on. Yuin, little brat, I'm going to bite you. Come. Although the body of energy feels exactly the same as the body of a real body, you might not be able to bite anything when you bite down. Yin Nuashing said as he rolled up his sleeves and put his jade-white arm in front of Yu Yin's mouth. There are so many patterns on it. It's too weird. I can't bite down. Yin Nuashing looked down and realized that she did not put away the key fragment. Besides the origin mark that was a mixture of gold and red on her right hand, there was also the divine mark of the divine body that was dyed silver black. It looked like, Yuin thought for a moment and said, it's like expired food. It's also poisonous. Yin Nuashing, Yuin looked behind her. Her eyes flashed as she looked around. Then, she suddenly reached out and hugged him tightly. She took a deep breath and said with a smile, yeah, it's the same feeling as back then. Huh? Yin Nuashing murmured in response. He looked at Yu Yin's beautiful face, which was full of nostalgia. He hesitated for a moment before reaching out and hugging her. There were no distracting thoughts. Well, it should be said that even when he hugged Xian and the others in the past, there were no distracting thoughts. If he had to say something, he was still thinking about the Yuanshe realm. But he could not say this. If he said it out loud, he might be bitten to death. After 2 minutes, Yuin struggled and broke free from Yin Nuashing's arms. She took 2 steps back and looked at him with a smile. Well, it's time. Your girlfriends are almost back. If they see you, they might beat you up. She paused for a moment and muttered, I can't beat them. It's okay to come to you occasionally and act like a spoiled child, right? Huh? Yin Nuashing scratched his head blankly. It doesn't matter. It's you who is so reserved. It's not like you used to be. Yuin froze. After a moment, she turned around and stuck her tongue out at Yin Nuashing. In the past, I foolishly forced you to call me sister, until one day, I found out that you were such a legendary person. I feel a little guilty. Yuin was a little shy under his gaze. Yin Nuashing pondered for a moment. Seeing that she was avoiding his gaze, he walked forward slowly and reached out to touch her head. You are already living in the space of the 9 divine temples. You are living next door to me. Do you still want to be distant? In the past, you used all kinds of means to force me. Now that it has become a fact, you want to shirk away. Let me tell you, even if the great samsara washes away everything in the world until the great Yuan realm is destroyed, you will still be the sister Yuin who gave me a headache in the past. Only when Yuin heard him call her sister did she truly relax. She once again looked around with a guilty conscience. Suddenly, she stood on her tiptoes and held Yin Nuashing's face with both hands. Her red lips lightly touched his forehead like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Then, she hurriedly retreated with a normal expression. I'm leaving. Seeing that you're quite busy, I'll come and find you again when I have time. Before Yin Nuashing could hear her words clearly, Yuin jumped out from the edge of the fire god temple like a frightened rabbit. Her delicate figure flashed and disappeared into the night. Oh, that girl forgot to fly and directly fell down. Yin Nuashing rubbed his forehead and shrugged. He turned around and continued to sit at the edge. He let out a long sigh of relief and rubbed his hair. He took out the soul-fixing bracelet. His long silver-black hair was like a silver waterfall hanging in the night sky. He hugged his knees with both hands and looked up at the silver-blue moon that was facing him. He took a deep breath, and the 6 dark red, divine rings appeared again. However, this time they were much smaller. Only the space behind him was spinning and trembling constantly, as if it would disappear at any time. Silver-black energy and dark red energy unceasingly emerged from his body, transforming into a thin layer of mist that intertwined together. The aura that contained the energy of the first great deity suppressed the chaotic aura of the sins of the world, causing it to no longer casually affect the outside world. This could be considered good news for him, but there was no way for him to stop it from affecting him. However, the number of reincarnated bodies, primal chaos elements, and dark red energy combined was just enough to stop it from affecting him. The path of the primeval, Yun Nuashing murmured. He buried his charming face between his knees and closed his eyes in exhaustion. Let's rest for a while, just for a while. Chapter 1320. Regarding future actions, under the condition that the current itinerary remains the same. In the main hall of the Fire God Shrine, as Yun Nuashing had adjusted the rules of the space where the 9 divine shrines were located, Yihong and the other heavenly gods and divine spirits had all gone into seclusion to recover, leaving only 4 or 5 post-divine champions and 3 demon gods in the hall. Suddenly, the number of people had decreased significantly. Xian and the others were sitting behind Palace Master Jean and the others, listening to the current arrangements. As I have recovered part of my memories from the Dark Age, most of which are about the divine realm and the pillar of creation, we now know the problem with the creation's barrier. Just half an hour ago, I have removed the aura left behind by the damage caused to the creation's barrier by the Great Reincarnation, as well as the aura of nothingness that I came into contact with when I wandered the land of nothingness. The repair of the creation's barrier has become much easier. The hollow voice of the barrier's consciousness reverberated in the hall. It pointed at the shadow of the divine realm in the hall. One could clearly see that one side, more than a third of the land, had been scorched, while the other side was impeccably protected by the combined barrier and other defensive measures, and was still intact. The repair of the creation's barrier requires going to the edge of the divine realm. It is divided into tens of millions of regions, and each region has a core, which is the core of the magic circles and runes that control that region. The creation's barrier will repair itself, and as long as the core is repaired, it will slowly repair itself. The barrier's consciousness pointed at the transparent membrane and said faintly, "Ahem, this simple should be simple for a fool, right?" Chu Yingzhan could not help but say, "He is the Empyrean god of origin, but let's talk about a very realistic problem. We have a group of people here from the lowest tier of divine child to the post-divine tier, heavenly god. The post-divine tier elites can't move freely, and I feel like we can't handle it." Everyone in the hall looked at each other and laughed dryly while scratching their heads. What she said was true. After all, that big shot's realm was lower than theirs. It was about the difference of a great Yuan realm, and they could not catch up no matter how hard they tried. When it came to that realm, it was easy for him, but it could be fatal for them. The consciousness of the barrier shook its head and asked everyone to focus. Was there something special going on? The restoration of the creation's barrier is very simple. You don't need to be proficient in the field of arrays. You just need to have a little understanding of it. The requirements are that low. Everyone was stunned. Doesn't that mean that any immortal rank or demonic rank formation master would be fine? The stronghold's consciousness nodded. After all we need to do is to follow his instructions. The relevant information isn't difficult to obtain. It's just a matter of time. Everyone, wasn't that too low of a requirement? Nightmare suddenly stood up and put his hands on the table. Time is a serious problem. How long do you think it will take to repair the creation's barrier? Everyone in the hall thought for a moment and nodded. This was a serious problem. If the creation's barrier could be repaired quickly, it should be able to withstand the impact of the world fragment. It might even be able to reduce the damage to celestial realm. However, no one knew how long it would take to repair it. Not too long. The eyes of the stronghold's consciousness flashed. About 100 years. The hall, which was still exchanging information, suddenly became dead silent. It was as if they were struck by lightning. Everyone froze at the moment when that sentence was said. Cold sweat appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. They could even hear the sound of flowing water. The creation's barrier is severely damaged. There is only an energy barrier left to maintain the lowest level of defense. There are many places that need to be repaired. We just need to follow his instructions. The higher our level, the deeper our understanding of arrays, and the faster we can speed up the process. 100 years is including all the energy that we can use at the moment. If there are no accidents, it will be 100 years. The hall was dead silent. They still had too little power at their disposal. It was no wonder that they came to the conclusion that it would take 100 years. By the time they finished repairing the creation's barrier, it would have been destroyed by the world fragment. How sad. Seeing that the morale was declining, Lord Jean looked at the stronghold's consciousness, which did not intend to say anything. He quickly stood up and said, "We still don't know the defensive capabilities of the creation's barrier. If it is completely repaired, how strong can it be? With a full-powered attack from me, it can penetrate the world fragment." Everyone was speechless. Didn't he just ask about its defensive capabilities? Why did he talk about its offensive capabilities? Speaking of which, the creation's barrier had offensive capabilities? The complete form of the creation's barrier can connect the energy and the power of the laws of the entire divine realm with the help of the pillar of creation. It is equivalent to borrowing the power of the entire divine realm. It can indeed attack. Before I came back, I used that power to penetrate the enemy's world through the void of a plane, the stronghold's consciousness said faintly. Everyone was shocked. That's ridiculous. But now we want to know its defensive capabilities. The limit of the complete form of the creation's defensive capabilities is still unknown. Based on the changes of the divine realm, it may be able to withstand the attack of 1 or 2 beginner primeval gods without collapsing. The goal is to hold on without collapsing. It can hold on for 4 to 5 hours. At the limit, it can only prevent the creation's barrier from collapsing completely. 18 hours at the cost of everything in the divine realm for days. The stronghold's consciousness's answer was simple and precise. It was a very shocking answer. Everyone looked at each other, obviously a little restless. If they could repair the creation's barrier, it would be a great help. Speaking of this, they thought of Yin Nuoxing's words, "Those who die will die." It's just a matter of how long they can hold on. Of course, that was the worst-case scenario. Now that the underworld had made a high-profile recovery and threw a brick at the divine realm, they had not come out yet. It was impossible for them to send 1 or 2 primeval gods to help them when they threw the brick. Looking at the 8 elements realm, where the laws had withered, there were probably only a few primeval gods who could move around in the entire void. As for the origin god, there were 2 in the divine realm. One was nowhere to be found for the time being, while the other was concerned about the overall situation and did not act recklessly. Moreover, it might return in a few days. How could that be? Exhausted, the golden-crowned princess propped herself up from the chair. In short, let's raise the priority of repairing the creation's barrier. After the 4th round of the Shower of Stars, we will have half a month to rest and reorganize. We can first repair the areas on the Sourcepeak domain and the Ultimate Plane domain, right? The Shin family's god nodded. That's the only way. This is the trump card of the divine realm. Perhaps it will come in handy one day. First, we have to activate it. The deity of the monster formation tribe stood up and walked out of the hall. I'll go back and talk to the children. Our tribe is innately close to magic circles. Perhaps we can be of great help. Everyone nodded. Then we'll have to trouble you. The deity of the monster formation tribe waved his hand without looking back. His figure flashed as he walked out of the hall. Just as the heavenly gods had said, this was a matter of life and death for the divine realm. Everything and all the interests had to give way for this great event. Moreover, that big boss was still keeping watch. If any party tried to cause trouble, that big boss would notice it and destroy it. Previously, they had learned that he was very powerful from the torrent of information. Now that he seemed to have recovered unimaginable power, he was even more unfathomable. Golden Crown Princess also stood up. Then there's not much to do now. Once we've selected the people, we can start repairing the creation's barrier. For now, we should keep an eye on the United Stronghold. It's been 6 hours. Then Xian stood up with a smile on her pretty face. Her body flashed and disappeared. I'll take my leave first. Ming was stunned for a moment. He exclaimed and quickly followed after her. Sister Xian, wait for me. The maidservants in the hall also wanted to disperse, but they were all caught by Feng, and Xiaoqing. After being caught, their 2 little feet swayed in the air restlessly. The 2 girls looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. Everyone was speechless. These girls had been restless for a long time. They did not expect them to run away so quickly. After the group of girls ran away, Yuan Shi and Nightmare also ran away. Only a group of parents were left in the hall. Everyone looked at each other and could not help but sigh. Young people, the deity of the Xian family, stroked his beard and stood up. Then he suddenly sat down and said, Speaking of which, that girl with the 5-element constitution is from the Xian family, right? Oh, I think so. Didn't you guys just bring back the branch that was wandering outside a few years ago? Xian is from that branch. The Yu family and the Qin family are also from that branch. Look, Qin Yu and Yu Eno Little Star. Their relationship is very good. Golden Crown Princess spread out one hand. Qin Hai counted with his fingers and had a strange look on his face. It seems that the kid knows all the people from our 3 families. How did they get involved with each other? I'm also very curious. Ahem, Qin Hai, that's the observer of the divine realm. You can't call him that kid or anything like that. The deity of the Qin family coughed softly. Qin Hai shrugged. He's my son-in-law. So what? The gazes of the people in the hall all gathered on Qin Hai in an instant. The various gazes made the old man laugh so hard that his face was shaking. Only now did everyone know about this matter. Their expressions were indescribable. So, the observer is also a member of the Xian family. The deity of the Xian family laughed even more exaggeratedly. His old face was like a blooming chrysanthemum. When they thought of Yin Nuoxing and Xian's behavior, it seemed like this matter was set in stone. Then, everyone's expressions became even more strange. They were simply envious, jealous, and hateful. The immortal ritual elder of the Dark Cloud fairy race could not help but whisper, Actually, our goddess and that little observer are somewhat related. The Golden Crown Princess spat out a mouthful of old blood. Her face was black. How many girls did that guy mess with outside? Why didn't we know about this? Palace Master Jean scratched his head hard. The goddess is hanging around his neck. The immortal ritual elder could not help but say. Everyone thought carefully. Before Yin Nuoxing became chaotic, there was indeed a little fox hanging around his neck. The Golden Crown Princess had even hugged it. Instantly, the group of people exclaimed again. Then, their faces darkened. That was treated as a pet, wasn't it? Palace Master Shui looked at everyone and suddenly laughed. No matter what you say, Little Star is still one of us. Hee. The leaders and second in command of the forces from all over the divine realm were all silent. Then, they did not know whether to laugh or cry. They could not compete with this. The meteor shower outside was still continuing. It seemed like the first flood had arrived. The torrential rain from the starry sky continued to bombard the Allied barrier. Even from millions of miles away, they could feel the irresistible, heavenly energy eruption. Xian and Ming walked on the stairs leading to the top of the Fire God Temple. They stopped for a moment. They had seen this scene many times, but they had never felt as relieved as they did today. Little Star was up there. It was as if with him, everything in the world was no longer a problem. The unprecedented sense of relief returned once again. The torrential energy that once made everyone feel anxious now made them feel like a grand celebratory firework. They knew that it was inappropriate to say this. After all, there were many people at the front line supporting the Allied barrier so that they could stand here safely. But that was how they felt in their hearts. Xian thought of something. Having experienced it once before, she guessed the situation up there. She turned around and gestured for Ming to keep quiet. Then, the two women tiptoed to the top of the fire god temple. After reaching the top, Ming immediately understood what Xian meant. The first thing that came into view was the silver-black hair that spread across the ground. It was like a gorgeous galaxy lying in front of them. The silver-black energy that once made them feel fear in the bottom of their hearts no longer made them feel that way. They had to stay on this platform for more than 10 hours every day. When they had nothing to do, they would come back here. Even if they could not get close to him, even if they could not wake him up, they would feel relieved as long as they could confirm that he was fine. They also hoped to see him wake up as soon as possible. Now, it was still the same platform, but they came up here again with a different mentality and saw him in a different state. The black figure was sitting not far away from the stairs, hugging his knees. The colorful black robe that seemed to reflect the stars was made by them and had not been changed yet. He looked like a girl who had just finished her wedding in the most beautiful dress. At this moment, he ran to a corner of the banquet where no one could find him and sat down alone to recover his strength. He buried his pretty face between his knees. His eyes could not be seen. He seemed to have fallen asleep. His 2-meter-long hair was untied and spread out. The color that used to be turbulent in the past was now showing some pattern and order. It was also the color of the black starry sky. The silver color stretched out like a hanging Milky Way. There was also a dark red energy on the platform. It was full of a frightening aura of destruction, but also made them feel the supreme aura of holiness. Xian gently motioned for Ming to be quiet. Then, she tiptoed to the side and took out a drawing board from the pendant. The latter nodded and floated over without making a sound. After helping her set up the drawing board, Xian began to draw the scene stroke by stroke. She had also drawn it once last time, when Fenger was beside her. This time it was Ming. She had no choice but to draw such an unusual scene for her to remember for eternity. However, she was afraid that she would not be able to remember it, so she had to draw it. In this way, when she saw the drawing in the future, she would be able to remember everything about this scene. Xian was drawing attentively, while Ming was giving advice in a low voice. In fact, Xian had already noticed that Yun Nuoxing had noticed them, but he did not say anything. She saw his ears move, and he seemed to be deliberately making the silver river in his hair change, which made the pen in her hand suddenly freeze. Unfortunately, when Ming looked at the silver river, he felt that it was moving, so he did not feel that anything was wrong at all. After she finished painting this painting that could be hung up until the end of time, she casually put away the drawing board. Amidst Ming's soft touch, he pulled her to Yun Nuoxing's side and sat down beside him. His jade-like hand pushed his shoulder. "I'm done painting, my Lord God of Heaven." She thought that she would see Yun Nuoxing raise his head and smile at her, but he still lowered his head and did not move. His breathing was even just like during the half a month that they had been waiting for. The two women's eyes suddenly changed. "Little star?" Xian called out softly. She waited for a long time, but there was no response. The joy and peace that lingered in her heart a few minutes ago suddenly dissipated by half. "Brother, has he gone back?" Ming's golden eyes also darkened. She reached out her jade hand, went around Yun Nuoxing, and patted Xian's shoulder. This time, it was her turn to comfort Xian. "Yes, brother will come back. He's just a little busy." Xian was silent for a while. Just as she was about to nod, she saw Yun Nuoxing's head move. Both of them were stunned and quickly turned their heads. They saw Yun Nuoxing raise his head. His eyes were still sleepy and a little confused. It seemed that he was really sleepy and could not open his eyes. The two women were happy, but they also did not know whether to laugh or cry. They also felt a little sorry for him. "Little star?" Ian saw him tilting his head and looking over. Just as she was about to call out to him, she felt her waist being held by a pair of hands. The two of them fell to the ground together. Their long silver-black hair suddenly fluttered in the wind. Ming Ming hurriedly moved aside to avoid being drowned by the two Zhang long hair. After the two of them lay down properly, he knelt beside them and bent over to look at them. "How is brother?" she whispered when she felt that the two of them seemed to have quieted down. Ziyin pulled aside the long silver-black hair that covered his body, and his head popped out from the gap. He let out a long sigh of relief and peeled off a part of the hair beside him with his hand, revealing Yun Nuoxing's face that was close to his own. "He seems to be still confused." Ming puffed up her cheeks and gently poked Yun Nuoxing's face with her jade hand. The latter was still sleepy. He scratched his cheek with his hand and said in a sleepy voice, "Oh, don't mess around. I'm not sleeping. I'm just resting with my eyes closed. 700,000 years of war. Let me rest for a while. Underworld. Primeval. Mark of origin. God of origin, don't worry. Take care of it. He won't die. Core of the primordial realm. The lower realm. Maybe I will reverse that ending. This world. In his sleep, he kept talking about the things that he cared about the most. Even in his sleep, he did not really stop. The two women who heard him fell silent. Ming's jade hand caressed Yun Nuoxing's face. He seemed to feel a little comfortable in his sleep. His slightly furrowed brows relaxed a little. At this time, she noticed that half of Yun Nuoxing's body was lying on Ziyin's body. She tilted her head and looked at the latter. "Sister Ziyin, do you want to move brother away?" Yun Nuoxing was lying on his side, on Ziyin's body. His cheek was pressed against hers. They could even breathe on each other's faces. His hands were still tightly hugging her slender waist. It was an unusually intimate position, just like when she was lying on his body, but now it was the other way around. No need." Ziyin shook her head and hugged the person in her arms a little tighter. She whispered, "Just let little star rest for a while. In the dark age, we're not by his side, so we can only do such small things." Ming nodded and knelt on the side. He stretched out his pure white wings and hugged them slightly, covering the two of them. A faint holy light emitted from his body fell on him, and a faint holy whisper echoed softly. Chapter 13:21. Waking up slowly in the morning with the sun. This was once the purest and most beautiful thought he had. He did not have to worry about anything. He did not have to think about anything. He did not have to go through so much trouble, and he did not have to face death so calmly. But in reality, when his consciousness slowly woke him up, he heard some scattered voices that sounded a little anxious and at a loss. Many voices were mixed together, and it sounded very irritating. He could also feel that someone was touching his body, as if they were picking him up and moving him to another place. After being moved around like an object and being tossed and turned for quite a while, Yun Nuoxing finally could not stand this somewhat chaotic and strange rhythm. He muttered in his heart, and then slowly opened his eyes. Because he heard the voices of the few familiar girls, he did not have to think too much to know that he was still in the 139th era, and it seemed that he did not want to continue that dream for the time being. As he woke up in the strange, chaotic rhythm, his consciousness and senses retracted from tens of millions of light years away. He saw the endless vast stars passing by in the sky, and saw that the rain of stars on the divine realm was still booming loudly. When his consciousness and senses returned to his body, his empty eyes were filled with color. Reflected in his eyes was a holy and beautiful face, and in the corner of his vision, he could see half a wing gently flapping. Brother is awake. When he saw that Yun Nuoxing had woken up, the expression on Ming's face immediately became joyful and excited. He raised his head and shouted in the direction of the noise. Suddenly, a group of people swarmed up and surrounded Yun Nuoxing, their faces serious and dignified. "You've finally woken up. We thought you went back again." The Golden Princess pushed away the few girls who were close to her and grabbed Yun Nuoxing's arm to pull him up. She said, "Wake up. There's something strange on your body, and we can't understand it." Yin Nuashing was still confused at first, but when he heard what the Golden Princess said, he suddenly understood something. He lowered his head and, as expected, saw the golden and red origin marks spreading out from his arm. "There's one behind you, too," Xian couldn't help but say when she saw him looking down at her. She smiled embarrassedly at the stares coming from all directions and quickly hid behind Ming. Yin Nuashing looked at everyone speechlessly and helplessly. She sighed and said, "Nothing special." "Oh, that's not right. It's my fault for not telling you in advance. This thing has been in my body for a long time. It's just that I let it surface again just now to see if there will be any changes." As he spoke, he tightened his grip on the key fragment in his hand. To his disappointment, there were no changes. The origin imprint looked exactly the same as it did when he first saw it. The scene of it rushing into the key fragment was like an illusion. Hearing his calm words, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Xian poked her head out from behind Ming. "What's that, Mark?" I also felt a strange aura, so I called Big Sister Jean and the others over." Origin imprint. Yin Nuashing yawned as she stretched lazily and tidied her clothes. "I'm so sleepy." Origin imprint. Princess Jean, Home Master Shui, and the others looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with confusion. "I've never heard of it. What is it?" "It's normal that you haven't heard of it. I came up with a name. In the entirety Yuan realm, I'm probably the only one with this mark on me." Yin Nuashing turned around and tidied her long hair. Xian and Feng saw this and quickly ran over to help. "I don't know what it records and what it does for now. I got it in the Dark Age. It won't manifest normally. I just wanted to see if this thing was still with me after dozens of years. Now it seems like it's coughed, that thing." Chu Yingxian could not help but expose his thoughts. She continued to ask, "So what is it? How did you get it?" "I met it in a very mysterious place. Even now, I don't know what to call that place." Yin Nuashing yawned again. She felt that after partially awakening, Feng Ling's personality had returned. It was as if he had not woken up in the morning. "As for what it is, how would I know what it is? If I knew," he thought for 2 seconds, "I don't know what would happen." Everyone looked at each other in confusion. After a while, they shrugged their shoulders helplessly. There was a great origin realms difference between them and the level he used to be in. The depth and meaning of his words were something that they could not keep up with. They did not understand what he was talking about at all. The meteor shower was still roaring outside. A night had passed, and the 4th round of bombardment was already half over. Those who were maintaining the combined barrier had already retreated to rest. At the moment, the astral barrier was held up by the 40 suns at the forefront of the divine realm. At this rate, the astral barrier should be able to hold out until the storm was over. Anyway, it's fine as long as you're fine. Princess Jean stretched out her hand and rubbed his head. "We can't help you with the things you're busy with. If there's any trouble that you can't solve, just let us know. You can just treat it as venting your frustrations in the tree hole. We might not be able to help, but at least we can let you vent." Yin Nuashing sat on the stone platform and looked up at her. She nodded. Princess Jean smiled and turned around to leave the platform with Home Master Shui and the others. "Sister Jean, wait." Princess Jean had just turned around when she saw a dark red ball, about a foot in size, floating towards her. She was stunned for a moment and immediately caught it. She looked down and saw that there was a little bit of golden light inside the dark red ball. It was very mysterious. "What is this?" "That's half of the primordial age's rule power that was extracted from the Guardian formation." Yin Nuashing pulled her bangs and said, "It's in the form of a seal." Princess Jean and the others looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. They couldn't help but sigh. They really didn't understand. Yin Nuashing was in a daze after throwing the ball over. She noticed that the atmosphere was not right and raised her head. Then she saw everyone smiling bitterly. She also noticed that Chu Yingxian was speechless. She then reacted and said, "The so-called form of a seal, I've completed that half of the rule power. At this moment, the energy ball in your hand contains the complete rule power of the primordial age, and it can be used without being bound by the rules of this age." Although she said it clearly, it was still a little vague. Hall Master Shui's eyes widened, and seemed to understand something. However, the others still didn't understand. Princess Jean was a little anxious. So what's the use of it? Yin Nuoxing. She was speechless and gave a long sigh. Hall Master Shui had a guess, but she wasn't sure and couldn't say it out loud. She couldn't help but stick out her tongue when she saw his expression. Princess Jin's pretty face instantly turned red. She anxiously stamped her long legs. I'm stupid, so what? Just tell me directly. In short, you can use the rule power in that energy ball to create a completely sealed space that belongs to the primordial age. I'll be more direct. Using that rule power, you can break through to the post-god level. During that process, you won't be suppressed by the rules of the 8-element realm of this age. Yin Nuoxing sighed. Princess Jin's jade-like hands trembled, and the energy ball slipped out. Hall Master Shui quickly caught it and looked at the ball thoughtfully. It was not much different from what she had guessed, but she didn't think of the last sentence. That was the most important thing. Well, you can only break through to the post-god level. Hall Master Jean nodded. She didn't doubt Yin Nuoxing's ability, but she was a little dumbfounded. They had been searching for that realm for a long time. According to the rules of this age, there's almost no possibility of breaking through. After struggling for so many years, they were almost about to give up. They were just waiting for the rules to change 1,000 years later. You can continue to cultivate after you break through to the post-god level. Through this path to that realm, your divine mark won't be branded in the conceptual layer of this world's rules. It will remain in your own divine soul, and you can decide where you want to put it. It won't affect anything. Originally, I wanted to get the void rules of the Dark Age down, but it would take a lot of time. I don't know when I would close my eyes and return to that era, so I had to use a half-finished product. The realm of the gods of this age needs more power. Even if the great reversal is brought forward by 900 years, it still won't be enough. I have to think of something else. Hearing Yin Nuoxing's sigh, everyone looked at each other. Hall Master Jean couldn't help but ask, this method sounds incredible. Won't it have any negative effects on this realm or the realm of the gods? It won't. The Empyrean god of Origin's position on the world ladder is higher than that of the primordial realm. We are almost above the rules of the void. Everything in the world can be made and changed by us. It won't take much effort to create a place in the realm of the gods that is completely unaffected by the rules of the void. He thought for a moment and said, after all, the void might not have expected us to appear in this era. Thinking about his experience of reincarnating and going back and forth in the primordial realm, everyone couldn't help but nod. It was completely possible. Yin Nuoxing turned to Xian and the others and said, you can also go there to cultivate. The power of the primordial era's rules should be able to quickly dissolve your sealing time. Every little bit counts. Then, before Princess Jean and Hall Master Shui could leave, Chu Yingzhan told them many things, no matter how big or small. Chu Yingzhan's face twisted. Why does it sound like you're telling me your will? Yin Nuoxing looked at her and nodded calmly. More or less. Everyone. The Empyrean god of Origin's intuition. Yin Nuoxing stood up and looked through the starry sky at the world fragment. He sighed deeply. The future is still uncertain. I'm worried. Maybe I'm worried, but it's more like a future that's about to be crushed. I can see a little bit of it. Maybe even myself. Haha. Just like how I've foreseen the ending of the Dark Age in advance. The ending of this era, the ending of the realm of the gods. No, my ending. I've also foreseen it in advance. Maybe. Yin Nuoxing frowned slightly and forced a smile. Just think of it as the worst ending. I also need to prepare everything for that ending, and then... His lips quivered for a moment before he calmly tilted his head to the side. His black eyes glinted with silver light as he stared at the crowd. After that, I'll leave the realm of the gods in your hands. This world, this era that belongs to me, everything that belongs to me. Just as they said, it's all in the past. It doesn't matter if my intentions are the same as theirs, but that's what I mean. The heavy topic, the serious look in his eyes, and the tense atmosphere made them realize that this was not a dream, but a real conversation. It was so serious that it made it difficult for them to breathe. And then Ming's voice was trembling. "Big brother, you said that this era will come to an end." At that time, he had a serious look in his eyes and a serious tone, but it was not as courageous as it was now. But was that goal something that could be given up so easily? Yin Nuoxing put his hands on his abdomen and looked up at the sky. He closed his eyes and pondered. Then he sighed. "That's right. That's also a problem. The matters of two eras are pressing down on me. Is this forcing me to make a choice? A choice between two? Placing the realm of the gods and my life on opposite ends of the scale? That's a good plan." He laughed bitterly at himself. This was a problem that spanned two eras and was squeezed together. It was a problem that no one could calculate. Naturally, there was no one behind the scenes. He could only say that he was unlucky, too unlucky. What could he choose? What could he do? Two paths extended forward in the endless darkness of the void, and both of them ended up being covered by the black fog. In fact, both paths had their corresponding solutions, but they might not be able to be realized. A dream is still a dream. I'm just walking back in time. The thoughts of this era can't affect anything that happened in that era. Any choice I made back then was based on the choice I made now. In the end, it affected me in the 139th era. It's just a fact. Yin Nuoxing's eyelids drooped. Thump! A dark red light was reflected in his eyes. It was like the sound of a beating heart. The mark of origin on his body was like a crack in the earth. The light of the magma shone from the crack, and the mark of origin on his body lit up abnormally bright. Yin Nuoxing was still in a daze. He felt a faint burning sensation in his right palm. He raised his hand and rolled up his sleeve. He saw a strange movement coming from the mark of origin. The source seemed to be the shard in his hand. He did not know how he had unintentionally touched the shard. "I have to go there eventually. But should I go now? Now," he whispered to himself. After a while, he clenched the shard in his hand and turned around. His drooping fringe could not hide the inextinguishable light in his eyes. "I'm going out." Yin Nuoxing pulled his robe and waved his hand to open a huge crack that led to the depths of the void. "Where are you going? Do you need help?" The Golden Princess and the others had been in a daze for a long time. When they saw him, they quickly asked. Yin Nuoxing shook his head. He stared at Ming, who was ready to move. The little girl was stunned. Then he pulled out Kai Xia, who was hiding in his soul. "You stay here too. That place is very dangerous." Kai Xia was stunned. She wanted to rush back into his soul the moment she was pulled out. However, that spiritual world was sealed. Now that he was the Empyrean god of origin, he had many ways to stop her from going back. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. She could only stare at him with a pair of sun-like eyes. Her eyes were full of resentment. However, he ignored her. "And then you're going to risk your life again?" Chu Yingzhan could not help but say this sentence that she had repeated many times. "Yes, probably. No, it has to be." Yin Nuoxing nodded calmly, which made her stunned and speechless. After organizing her words for a moment, she could only say, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, All right, I'm not used to you being so honest. Will you come back?" Yin Nuoxing was silent. He did not answer. He did not know the answer either. He lifted his foot and was about to step into the void portal. Suddenly, he stopped and turned to look at Xian. She was holding his hand. Her expression was resolute and determined. She just stared at him without saying a word. Yin Nuoxing hesitated for a while. After about 3 or 4 minutes, he stared at the deep purple Mei Mao. The wall that he built with determination and desperation in his heart cracked a little. He tried to pull his hand out several times, but he could not do it. Fenger blocked the door behind him when he hesitated. It was useless. It was just a statement. Their hearts were beating fast. They were afraid that if he went girl, as if an era had passed, Yin Nuoxing reached out his hand and gently rubbed Xian's head. His beautiful face showed the most gentle expression she had ever seen. There was a trace of undisguised affection in his eyes. He said softly, "Good night." Without any warning, her consciousness dimmed. Even her thoughts became blurry. Even the things that happened in the past few minutes were blurred. She fell forward. But just as she felt it, she was caught by Yin Nuashing. He turned to look at Feng. The latter clenched her teeth. There was a trace of bitterness in her beautiful Mei Mao eyes. It was the same bitterness that she had 70 years ago. Yin Nuashing pushed Xian into her arms and said softly, "If I don't come back, you take care of Xian. My mark of origin is branded in the creation's barrier. If I fall, that power will follow my will and guard the realm of the gods. It won't be a problem for it to withstand the impact of the void mist. The results will be different, but the ending may or may not be the same. I can't worry too much. Where are you going?" Feng hugged Xian tightly. Her body was trembling. She opened her beautiful eyes wide and stared at him. There were some tears in her eyes. "The place where I touched this mark." Yin Nuashing shook the mark of origin on his arm. "The place where the mythological era ended. The place where the gods of origin fell." The atmosphere that was so heavy that it was about to freeze fell straight into the abyss because of his words. "The mark of origin on my body came from an illusion. I thought it was an illusion, but it actually affected me. I have been thinking about the meaning behind it for decades, but I couldn't find anything. Maybe now is the time to uncover the fog. I can't say for sure. I can only go and take a look. Maybe it will bring about some changes in this life. Maybe there won't be any. There is an eternal storm of destruction in that place. It is buried in the deepest part of the void. Even the gods of origin will fall if they touch it. This is a key, a fragment of something that came from there. I have been there before. Maybe I can go there again. Maybe there is no maybe." Yin Nuashing left this sentence and strode towards the portal. Feng knew that she couldn't stop him. No matter how much she resisted, it was useless. She could only make way for him and watch him slowly walk into the portal in the void. The atmosphere that seemed to have fallen into an abyss grew heavier and heavier as the teleportation gate gradually closed. No one could say a word. Devil Nightmare looked at his back that was unafraid of death and could not help but sigh. The wind is bleak and the water is cold, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. If he did, he might be slapped to death. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.